Go tweet out that live now. There we go. We're finally doing it. Yeah, I don't ever tweet out. I should take advantage of scheduling. But here we are, live now, covering everything and anything that's probably not alien related.
I have a lot of takes on the aliens, though.
Well, so do I. But I mean, that's just.
We'll get to it. We'll get to it.
There's been a lot of stuff this morning that has kind of left us ablaze, shall I say. I mean, the Canada thing has been interesting because it seems like everyone's just checking their meteorological maps and they're like, oh, this has all been conveniently started at the same time and it's an entirely different wildfire. They all started all across Quebec. That isn't questionable at all or anything like that. So it just gets the noggin jocking.
Did you tweet out we're live now?
I am now.
All right.
That's the problem. I never do this on time. It's live now.
And we got a lot of regulars in the chat. Our resident Fishy Frenzy tries Kushinada. I can't pronounce that name. Cine Animations, of course.
Hello, Cine. Geo has looked like he's lost weight. That's true. Geo's been losing a lot.
I noticed that lifting weights and starting to smoke has there's subtle physiognomy changes going on. Maria Concepcion, Introspection, Z's Hunter, Sean Weiland. Oh, Sean Weiland's back. Donald Trump Gaming. Nova Scotia, God's Country, destroying modern day Babylon, New York City. Yeah, boy. No, the one time the Dominion has crushed those heathens in America.
Well, you guys haven't gone further south enough to take care of the White House, but we're praying. Yeah. We're hoping,
Sped Kaczynski, Mr. C. Layman.
Yeah, it does have 2049 vibes.
2049 vibes, yeah.
But instead of chittering, Asians telling you he's a Blade Runner, it's some Orthodox Jewish man telling you that you're a Blade Runner,
Yeah, that's your Blade Runner. They have those wires to trick their mitzvah or whatever.
Oh, their what is it called? Their Sabbath day, the Shabbat or whatever, where they're not supposed to use tech or anything, and they have a whole wire around the city to say it's their home or whatever.
We got
the most possible legalistic thing you could do with God.
We got Patrickio, our good friend, Yanislav, Raging Mandrill, a good friend, Captain Smith, Mike Hawker. I love that name.
That's my favorite. That's probably one of my favorite ones outside of Spasticus Autisticus and Mike Hawker. That's so good. It's so good.
Yeah, I'll get him. I got a Mike Hertz. First name Mike Hawk. Mike Hawk Hertz. Everyone drop your glasses. Mike Hawk Hertz. Ha ha. Well, you better go to the doctor then. Listen, I'm going to stample a postage to your ass and mail you to Iran. That was my most Sislak impression. My favorite was Ivana Tinkle and Amanda Hug and Kiss. That was pretty funny. Amanda Hug and Kiss. I just need Amanda Hug and Kiss. Owen Zaleski. Remember that one time that Mo... Bart called him and he said, I'm at Evergreen Terrace, and he blamed Jimbo because Jimbo was with his babysitter. Then he starts crying. He's like, kid, I wasn't going to do anything. I was just going to hurt you a little bit. Rich, I can't say it. I can't say Yanislav for YouTube.
Yeah, I know. Let's not risk that one.
Such
is the case with Ophelia. Yeah, well... At least what I do like is that our chat has a delightful sense of humor. I will always be grateful for the fact that all the funny people watch the Digital Archipelago. That's
Ophelia Dick. Oh, what does that mean? I'm going to feel your... Oh,
yeah.
That's a clever
one. That is true. It does sound more like Gilbert Gottfried than anybody else.
I used to like the True Capitalist Radio ones, with Ghost, where it's Ghost is commune hist. What was the one that really got him going was what was it called? Coal and Bacon Strips. That was another one. That was a prolific ghost troll. Coal and Bacon Strips. Ghost is commune hist. There was another one that really got him once where he like, I think he rage quit the show. He rage quit Radio Graffiti. I swallow cum. That was in South Park. Swallow cum. Yeah. So, anyways, enough of that stupid, silly stuff.
Yeah, we'll do that later when you guys super chat more names over later
there you
towards
go.
the end of the
super
show.
Chat like Geo is communist or Gem and Bacon.
Yes, but hello everyone. Welcome to episode 46 of the Digital Archipelago, where believing in skepticism intensifies like it's 2015. We're going to start taking a look at questions and wondering just what the hell are they talking about. It'll be fun because we had something planned. I've had a rather busy week, but the aliens bit from Tucker Carlson, and then now the debrief bit, and then the federal government saying, yeah, we've got 12 non-human made aircraft in our arsenal, and no one else in the world apparently does. And so you're like, okay,
Interesting.
Because I just think of Project Blue Book from 1952 to 1969.
JL and Heilig, yeah.
Yeah, so there you go.
I don't know what to say. I'm like one of the last. I think, because I'm going to piss off people. I'm going to piss people off. I think
that's why we're here.
That's why we're here. I think like this knee-jerk contrarianism that a lot of the right wing, like, it is suspicious. I mean, I'm smart enough to realize that it is kind of suspicious how they are like letting up on it. And there is a lot of there has been a lot of glow in the dark activity. Like before the show, I was telling Prude about Mirage Man, that one documentary, which I'm not going to lie, I really love the aesthetics of like early 2000s UFO conventions, especially out in the Nevada desert. But I think that, I mean, maybe I'm just defending my own childhood from like the countless documentaries and hours of Coast to Coast AM I've listened to. But I do think that there at least is some precedent for whatever you want to call them, aliens or extraterrestrials. Either they are some kind of like psychical / demonic nefarious activity, or they actually are just like a different species. And the Fermi paradox is more or less correct. Because I mean, given the vastness of the universe, it is no wonder that there probably is something else out there. But then again, I mean, I do understand why the right wing has taken a skeptical turn towards the UFO phenomenon, because it is one of those like normie bait things, and it does feed into a very like Reddit libtard narrative of, well, if aliens are real, then religion isn't real, and sort of creation story isn't real, and also how should I put it? It does lend to sort of like a gee whiz sort of thing that can distract you from other meaningful political problems and distinctions. And it is kind of skeptical, like why you would just trust, you would be like a planned truster when it comes to the government and UFOs. But at the same time, I do think that there is a lot of very interesting cases that have happened. And there is a lot of precedent there to say that, maybe they are a legitimate phenomenon, or maybe the Jungian interpretation of them are correct. The sort of, I would call it the Jungian / nobody TM interpretation of it being a psychical / spiritual phenomenon that can only be comprehended by modern materialist man. That's why it comes about in such a different form than previous archetypal manifestations of various entities throughout history. So, I mean, I don't know what your opinion is, Prude, but I mean, I just noticed that I'm really on the fence with it, because I do enjoy a lot of schizo content, for lack of a better term. I do. I
love how that word was thrown around earlier this week too on
Yeah.
the timeline with respects to more small niche micro internet celebrity fandom fighting. But I'm equally skeptical, but at the same time, I think that what might be called, like, I don't trust the intelligence community. I think that's the big problem is that any good faith that the IC has ever had has been like thoroughly burned for partisan reasons. And it's a lot like if there was a major health crisis to happen like tomorrow, like say something really bad was to happen, like a hemorrhagic fever or whatever, how many people would be seriously at risk of getting sick because, the mainstream health apparatus institutionally has burned all credibility for a good chunk of the population, to where even, libtards are admitting like, things were wrong. Yeah. So
well,
I get
that hemorrhagic fevers are relatively contained in terms of the way that they spread and the relative burnout rate of
Yeah, I
changes of
mean,
infection, but
thank
yeah,
God for that. But I mean,
you know,
if the origins,
thank
out of
God.
out of a certain insecure biolab in a certain part of China, funded by American taxpayer dollars, is any instance, I wouldn't hold my breath. But to me, it just tells me that, like, yeah, if they were, even if they're right about it, how
Yeah,
many you're gonna have a really hard time making people believe, and what purpose would it be for? I mean, like, yeah, there's the whole Project Bluebeam stuff from like the 90s and 80s where, why not? Would you, if there was something to ultimately take on religious fundamentalism, then you would have to rewrite the creation story, or to prove that we're not alone and that the firmament, doesn't show his handiwork or something like that. And so I get like really skeptical towards that end, because, like, well, then you have all the scientific models and all the rationalists and everything, from like Robin Hansen's grabby aliens to like Lix Lu's book, about sort of the dark forest concept of alien galactic politics, where, like, listen, I may not be able to communicate with you. Our chain of trust can't really exist because we may have different languages, different physiology, different politics, different understandings. I might be an individual species, you might be a hive mind. So if you are existing and you are extraterrestrial, I might as well just like destroy your entire existence before you become a threat to me on that kind of scale. And like, so I don't know, and I get really uneasy about it. But I also just think throughout, I mean, for religious purposes, right? Like, we have very real instances throughout history of both miracles and possession and whatnot. Like, if we're going to
right.
mess with something, it's probably things that we don't really understand. And if we're going to get like an announcement where it's going to happen, I feel like it's the UAC straight out of Doom, where it's just like, well, we're doing this for like energy purposes or some other kind of defense technologies, advanced, research weapons, DARPA and all that jazz. And it's like, well, really all that we've done is made a deal with the devil, and here we are. So I
Yeah,
just think that it's an absolute disaster for however it's going to go with, and it's just incredibly difficult, I think, for anyone to ascertain the truth. And I mean, even Landshark was tweeting about it, which I always like Landshark for when he sort of starts talking about his own
oh, what did he
perspective on.
say? I didn't see those
Well,
two.
he was talking about his faith. So I
Hmm.
mean, like, Landshark's Bulgarian, but he's an Orthodox Christian. And he was just like, he says his particular form of Christianity is the one religion that takes the concept of the aerial realm as a real space of demonic deception, optical illusions, false visions very seriously in a literal way. It's where the miracles of Antichrist take place and Satan has chief dominion. St. Simeon, the new theologian, has it for this reason remarks that the struggler of prayer should quite rarely look into the sky out of fear of evil spirits in the air who cause many and various deceptions in the air. So I'm like, well, sorry, U.S. government. I think I'm going to trust God and the saints a little more than you in this respect. But I don't know. Like, it also felt very weird that Tucker Carlson wanted to go with it, and then like Matt Walsh at the same time were going on
Yeah,
about it. Like, Matt Walsh is like, this is real. This is fundamentally true. And I'm like, man, I think my favorite tweet was about like some internet anon or some anime AVI anon was just like, man who just discovered what a woman is like now fighting out about
yeah,
whether or not aliens are real. And it's just like, it felt very weird that everywhere all at once, there's this focus on the extraterrestrial, the UFO origin again. Like, this happened even earlier under the Trump administration. There's a big animus behind it for the Space Force alongside like cyber warfare. And so I just get like, I'm like, listen, until you start showing me some like Lamau bodies that like you have like
yeah,
undeniable non-deep fake, non-AI prompted images that says, yeah, we put it on a VHS tape for me and then tell me that, like, yeah, we actually autopsied these guys in like 95 or whatever, then maybe
yeah.
I'd have a cocked eyebrow. But I remain
If they have an
skeptical
alien in
in question.
formaldehyde, then maybe we'll.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But again, they have to come visit North America, because I like that Ben Braddock tweet about if they were to land in Brazil, they'd be like cooked over a steak and
That'd be
in a
so
public.
true.
It's so true.
So
That in
true.
China, right? Like, ET
Yeah.
lands in Beijing and they're now in a wet
They're
market.
being cooked by Uncle Rural Gourmet with like pepper sauce and like and like hot pot mix, and yeah, and it's like
And it's all in
that's
a boiling stew inside of a plastic like trash container.
yeah, exactly. It'll be like the takeaway from the wet market. But I wanted to ask Fishy Frenzy in the chat why the Amarnites absolutely despise this like aliens are real thing. Is it because they want to usher? I know they've taken a turn against Landshark. I mean, not all of them, but I mean, like some of them I notice, maybe because I feel like the schizo posting, for lack of a better term, the sort of like faith-driven schizo posting is grates with like a notion of a secular Nietzschean right wing um, that is explicitly eugenicist in some sense. But I do think that the UFO phenomenon has cut across political boundaries. My theory of why Tucker Carlson, I have a theory about why Tucker Carlson and Matt Walsh is talking about this, is because I feel like for a long time in the American psyche, because you have to realize that the conspiracy quote unquote movement, for lack of a better term, conspiracy theory is a uniquely modernist and uniquely American phenomenon. America was founded kind of on a conspiracy when you think about it, in some respects. I mean, not really, but well, yeah.
I mean, founded on the literal idea of men getting together and conspiring to rebel against the crown, sure,
yeah,
but
yeah,
that's
what
not
I mean.
not conspiracy theory, as in like there was a coordinated effort, to make deals with aliens type deal.
No. Well, maybe, I don't know.
Well,
right?
maybe
No,
I like to imagine that Thomas Jefferson or Ben Franklin has their long tobacco pipe similar to the X-Files cigarette smoking man, and it's just like, we'll make a deal with, maybe that's why Jefferson was a deist. Who knows?
Maybe that's why, exactly. No, but I think like conspiracy theory propagates in America for a variety of social reasons and for a variety of cultural reasons that are deep within America. I mean, the rebellious spirit of America, the frontier thesis, like all things American, which people don't really talk about nowadays, but they talk about in like a stupid like post-colonialism sort of way, like the black bodies were conquered by the frontier thesis, blah blah blah. But I think that there is something deep within the roots of America that has bred a sort of conspiracy culture for a reason, because America, the sort of national faith of America was predicated on the possibility of politics being transparent and rebelling against an older cabal of power, but then of course subsequently turning into a cabal of power, at least in the elite level. But also I think that America, when it comes to like why Tucker Carlson and Matt Walsh have gone with this, is because a lot of right-wing content has sort of been slotted in the category of conspiracy theory, because the way that a lot of people, especially in North America, think of politics on the political right is sort of conspiratorial. They have a much more, how shall I say, formalist or solid realist interpretation of politics, rather than a social constructivist or a Marxian dialectical notion of politics. That's why conspiracy theories have by and large been the political right, but there have been sort of cross political variants with conspiracies, because there is political leftist conspiracies. I mean, the whole Russiagate thing, but you have to remember, like the anti-V stuff, the anti-jib jab, the anti-juice stuff used to be primarily the political left. But then, of course, the sort of health nuttery and new ageism and anti-jib jabby type of content has, in the recent era, crossed over into the political right. So, and I think for a variety of reasons, it's almost as if the political right has taken up the mantle of the new age movement. And a lot of that new age content has been integral with other conspiracies, with sort of looking at conspiracy from a spiritual dimension and the ufology stuff. There's this huge cross variance between ufology and the new age movements from the 60s onwards, really. I mean, the Raelians in the 1970s were sort of the tipping point of this. But then by the time you get to the internet age, huge cross-contamination between weirdos and schizos and the, Usenet boards. The whole like Nephilim or the New World Order sort of deal. So, I mean, I'm very interested in this stuff. I've studied this stuff for years. And I feel like that's why in the North America, at least, there is this focus on conspiracies on the political right. Whether or not you want to say that that is a productive or meaningful political hermeneutic, there's a lot of people, a lot of these like Zoomer Amarnites critique that as to, that it being a losing gamble to look at these various schizo conspiracy theories as political praxis. But I would say that that's correct, but I would have a note of caution, being a, fence setter such as myself, and would say that what really galvanizes a lot of the chuds in the political right has been conspiracy theories and the conspiratorial framework. So I wouldn't want to counter-signal it fully. I would say that there is, oh my God, I'm into astrology too. There you go. So, I mean, I'd say that there is some validity to astrology, but I mean, in terms of like the UFO phenomenon, if you watch, I posted this on my Telegram and on my Discord, my Patreon Discord, which I have now. If you're a patron of mine, you can get access to the Discord. I I posted on the video for Nobody TM called the UFO Zone documentary. There used to be this banner that said "Considering the Alien Question," and I think that Nobody TM came down on the side of Carl Jung in the sense of it being a integral to a lot of the manifestation of hierarchy and conspiracies within the government, but also having the sort of Jungian subtext of it being an archetypal collective unconscious phenomenon that modern man has become obsessed with because we no longer have the same picture of mythos that our ancestors had. But anyways, I'm just ranting right now, Prude, so you take it away, man.
All right. Yeah, so just wanted to make sure that you got that all out there. So like no worries.
Well, what do you think of aliens, Prude? What is your interpretation of it?
Things outside of my pay grade for starters. I mean,
Well,
I'm not gonna have an answer right off the bat saying like this is the definitive answer or take on aliens. But I mean, I think that for right now, again, like historically, this has been pushed before in times where there has been risk of conflict or Cold War style conflict. I mean, the first time we had the literal Project Blue Book in the 50s and 60s, literally at the height of the Cold War.
yeah.
And also during the time of the Cuban Missile Crisis. So
well, even Reagan mentioned it.
Well, and Reagan mentioned it, and he had a United Nations address about it. I mean, there was a big push for Star Wars as sort of a satellite-based ballistic continental ballistic missiles interception sort of device, which never became anything of it that I'm aware of. But I mean, you also have other things like satellite kill weapons, intercept stuff. But anyways, like I feel like it's very convenient as a mechanism and method to say like there are tools and items that we are testing and using that have not been that are not available to the public knowledge. I mean, skunkworks is famous. We've got technologies that have been privately classified for years before becoming public. The F-117 Night Fighter is an excellent example of this.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, just like I don't know, and I'm not inclined to give it much attention when I think I guess this is sort of like the right-wing inverse about space. Like, you famously think about like the 1960s with the space program in Apollo, you had a lot of civil rights and black activists saying like billions for the moon, pennies for programs or whatever.
Yeah.
I think the right-wing inverse of that is like, if there's aliens or whatever, then aliens are probably going to know that I have the same domestic earthly politics that I have to focus on. And I mean, like the thing that really just I thought was a delightful sort of wake up and smell the ashes kind of deal was the news this morning about what happened in France. And I was just like, I saw, there was the video that was posted and it's been deleted by Twitter. I mean, you can find it. I really don't recommend that you look it up. I'll just give you the short run of it. A Syrian man who tried living in France was denied, got access to Sweden, lived in Sweden for about a decade, but because of the Schengen area of the European Union, managed to go to France and stab several children. He was shot and taken down by French police. I don't recommend.
Because unlike in Britain, they actually carry guns in France.
Yes, they do. Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
For obvious reasons. And they shot him, and you can hear him cry out when they shoot him if you want. But and so that was sort of like
he deserved more. Put it that way.
Yeah, I'm trying very hard not to Fed post or I will just simply I will just simply say there is no reason for any Mohammedans to be in Europe, and I'll leave it at that. And I just thought to myself, none of this alien shit matters when the day-to-day earthly politics are still going on, and there are still obvious treacherous things happening on a global scale. Whether it's, I wrote a short story based upon like the wildfire situation, and the first comment I got was saying, China owns Canada. This is a deliberate attack against like Canada and America. And I was thinking to myself, okay, I just wrote a short story. I'm trying my hand at fiction again, but like that's how political and online we can be sometimes.
Yeah.
And so trying to get the public zeitgeist interested in aliens again in the midst of like serious political issues, we're borderline and close to a recession. I was just reading earlier today, I think that the European Central Bank finally said that they were in one. And now, we've got this election season going on and a myriad of other issues that are still really important. So I don't want to entertain the notion of it because like, why bother? And that was the only gripe I had with Tucker Carlson's bit on Twitter the other day was like, It was really well done, millions of views. He outperformed Fox News for a simple 10-minute monologue. It felt like a concise, well done, sort of like baby's first YouTube presentation of politics. No jump cuts or anything like that Taylor Lorenz witch had to complain. He won't succeed on Twitter. He won't succeed on anything because there's no jump cuts. It's not flashy. No good intro. Whatever. He did fine. But the aliens thing was just like, I don't. Why did that matter right here, right now? There are other issues that you've been good on, and I don't see the need to focus on it. I'm sure, I'll get flack in the comments or whatever saying like that's a small brain take or whatever. I'm open to entertaining them. I'm open to hearing them, but for me, I think that my face should be forward on the issues that are presently in front of me. I don't know if I can deliver that much time to it. Just because I also need to be worried about like things like pre-lest, spiritual deception. I still think that stuff's very real, and I can go on Twitter and consume this digital drug, which is twitter.com, and I can see literal demons at any point in time. And
you can follow them on Twitter.
You can follow them on Twitter, like Ayaya Girl, right? Like that's a literal interpretation of a demon. Like, Libertarian Magazine, Reason Mag has literal demons on their platform. So I mean, like those are the things that just come to my mind.
Well, that's all I've got. Well, the only thing I disagree with you, well, not disagree, but I would say like a counterpoint would be that we have a lot of earthly political problems, but I think like you mentioned that sign of like billions for space, but not for the Poe, right? Like, I notice like a lot of the right wing nowadays on Twitter, they're getting around to the notion. I remember I said this years ago, that I went to grad school with a guy who was reading Nick Land, and we were talking about welfare and all that. He's like, humanity has so many projects to do that why should we care about this like egalitarian nonsense? And I remember listening to that, and I was still like a little bit of a libertarian, right? I'm like, well, that actually doesn't make sense. Like in the sense of like, we should care about things in terms of like if aliens are real, like the existential security question. But at the same time, you're right. Like I think that it's not that, in the same way of saying like, why do we care about the space program? I do think that there are great works of art and science and philosophy and aesthetics that have to be achieved in terms of based world becoming real. And I think that even people like the leftist critique, for example, of why should humanity, what's funny though, I had this whole rant about these people like Hanania, like these evolutionary psychology people, that they have the same critique of like, why should humanity care about things that don't have any sort of immediate utilitarian advantage, like building a cathedral? Why shouldn't we give money? So Hanania would say like, why care about building cathedrals?
I know where you're going, and I need to preempt something here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Before I think you go too far down the line. I'm pro space exploration. If there's one government project that I would dump more into the national budget into, it'd be space, and it'd be more public-private partnerships, more rocket launches, more space supremacy. Like I'm for that, because there is a drive to like screaming. I simply do want to do that. Like I think that should.
But you are correct though.
Like that was the point that I want to make very clear. I'm very pro space. I'm not like we shouldn't go out there or whatever. Like I want that to happen because to me there is nothing more. There's nothing about like, I mean, in some instances, kind of like Tower of Babel, like, but I mean, like, there is like you were about to go off about a cathedral. Well, why build a cathedral? Well, why go to the moon? Like, why reach for the stars? So, like, why wouldn't we? Like, we have such a limited time on this earth. This is such a short little sojourn into the life of the age to come. Why would I not do everything in my power to reach it? I mean, like, there are no more like lands to conquer, but there's still the oceans, there's still space, there's still several things about the atmosphere and the air that we don't know about. I mean, if I had it my way, I think all that I would want is like a normie 9-to-5 job would to be like a crop duster and just to fly my aircraft and to like take care of farms. Like, why not? Like, I don't know about you, Gio, but like I've taken a couple of like flying lessons when I was younger. And it was the greatest experience I had ever felt. It was better than driving. It was better than walking. It was better than anything I had ever minus a few things, but that I had ever experienced in that respect. And it was just like, and it was something that you just that doesn't leave you. And why wouldn't you want to go for it again? Why wouldn't you want to fly? Why wouldn't you want to do that? But go on.
No, exactly. 100%. But the where I do think So yeah, you're not getting to that, but I do think you're correct in the sense of see this tweet by Whiskey Jack. I listened to an interview with a Catholic exorcist priest. His idea of evil was very close to the Orthodox sphere. Good interview. And then Cindy mentioned Faustian moment. Exactly.
Yeah, it is. Like,
yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. I mean, that's the case. I have no desire but just desire space.
Yeah. But I do agree with you, and I do agree with the majority, what seems to be the majority now of the E-right, that why are they doing this now? Right? It's suspicious. I mean, as much as I have a love for old school Coast to Coast and a little bit of George Norrie and like all those documentaries I watched when I was a kid and all those books I read on it, and I do have a lot of ideas
all
about
the ancient alien stuff, all the lost cosmonaut stuff, all of the what happened in Antarctica things. Like, my grandfather was obsessed with that, or is obsessed with that shit. And so every time that I would come back to the States as a kid and visit, I would read all of his books on UFOs and like ghost sightings and stuff. So I'm like definitely tuned into that stuff real quick, because it's just like, I think that there's a lot of stuff that we don't know about that are these antediluvian histories that our governments aren't telling us.
I think exactly, but at the same time I do think that at this moment it is a distraction in the sense of, like, you were mentioning, like, again, it's very hard to talk about because it does lead to Fed posting, but that incident that happened in France should not have happened. Those people shouldn't be there. At least the military age men shouldn't be there, and while in general, but I mean, that's but it's disheartening in the sense of, I mean, the wildfires. I mean, I don't know where to side. Again, I don't want to say anything in public just because it becomes another issue. But I mean, it is suspicious, all these wildfires going at once. I mean, even normies are like talking about the 15-minute city thing, and I mean, I don't know. That's a lot of that stuff is kind of crazy. Like, why are they? But at the same time, I mean, these wildfires, they do seem, more intense than in previous years. Whether, I mean, automatically, they'd say, oh, that's because of climate change. But I mean, and again, I don't exactly discredit the climate change theory either. I mean, but sorry, go ahead. What were we going to say?
Oh, I mean, that's what Chuck Schumer had said.
God.
So, yeah. If aliens aren't made, that's the point,
So you can kill
I take the 40K / doom route. Like, I don't care if the aliens are hot. I'm gonna kill them. I love my job. This is what I'm programmed to do.
If they can bleed, they can die.
If it bleeds, you can kill it, and that's what matters. Even
normie media were mentioning that like 50% of Canadians believe it's intentional, at least some regard.
It's like the French, like having a 70% opinion of the Great Replacement being real. So I mean, like, it's gonna happen.
Like, that's what I mean. Like, I know that a lot of there was this debate years ago when Sky King happened about, like, does the E-right just worship losers or worship, like, people that sunset or whatever. I mean, I'm obviously of a divided opinion on that, and specifically like people like Rich Russell or Dominic Venner. I mean, of course, being Catholic, I don't condone sunsetting, obviously. I think that's not the right path. But at the same time, as an artist and as a thinker, I do see at least some poetic in that. At least there's some very brutal artistic poetry that happens in terms of taking one, like, same with Mishima, right? Taking one's life into a grand project and living with and literally dying with the consequences of that. And I feel that so I have a very divided opinion on that. Although, of course, as a Catholic, I don't condone or approve of sunsetting. But yeah, so the UFO thing is interesting, how all these real world problems are coalescing. And as we know, if the whole I don't know if I should say this, but if the whole thing that happens in the East with the counteroffensive, if that goes nowhere, the European economy come the winter will be in even more of a dire strait. It will be I wouldn't say it would be as bad as what people projected for the last winter, but definitely the European economy, which I predict this counteroffensive will go nowhere. It will be the same rinse and repeat. They'll get bogged down. There'll be huge propaganda about it. It'll appear that they're winning for a few weeks, and then, massive casualties on top of the already casualties that they've suffered. if that happens, which I predict is probably likely, I don't see the Russians moving any inch anytime soon. They can't take an embarrassment like Kherson again. I think the European economy will take even more of a massive hit, and that will lead to actual questions of existential security in terms of economic issues with Europeans. Of course, America will be sheltered, so we'll be like, haha, Europors, who cares? But I don't know. I mean, I think that it's going to yeah, it's not going to be pleasant, put it that way.
Yeah, it won't be
Well, what do you
pleasant.
think of the counter effect really quickly before we move on to UFOs again?
Sure. Sure. I mean, I've seen it go off the way that it did, and I thought that the dam being hit,
that's
regardless of who's associated with it or who did it. I mean, clearly, to me, it also felt very interesting that it was like right before like this D-Day style counteroffensive, because I don't know. I wonder if that was how it was planned, right? We're going to do this on like June 6th. We're going to do all these things and make it sure that that's the way that it goes. And so, like we're witnessing, I mean, everyone's watching, like, and the only people that are really interested in watching right now, I think really are the Russians, Americans, and I mean, everyone else fighting. And there's room for very real escalation. Like the theory of alliance trap is about to get tested really quickly when like former, NATO Secretary General Rasmussen was just like, there are some countries that kind of want to go ahead and go to war with Russia again. Referencing the Baltic states that are like really ready to like send in troops. And I'm like, that's more or less sets it off, right? Unless like you get America to be like, we're not going to guarantee your safety, which then kind of nullifies the point of Article 5 of NATO to begin with. But like you're witnessing leopards being put into combat. You're witnessing armored.
They destroyed 30 of them, apparently, the Russians,
I don't know if those numbers are confirmable or not. But I mean, like there's video footage of some Leopard tanks being destroyed. And so it's just like everyone's watching. And at the same time, what's been really interesting has been Alexander Soros, George's son, going to speak at the White House with Vice President Kamala Harris. And he had said some interesting stuff, saying that support for Ukraine is high, but, America can't afford a war on two fronts. And he says, I do not think war with China should be an inevitability. So you're kind of beginning to see where the sort of elite mindset or global politicking is going in this lens. So I don't know whether or not this will come from anywhere. I mean, this is going to be a bloody conflict. More people are going to die on both sides. And I will agree with what Tucker Carlson said the other day, that we've given $1 billion to a very corrupt man in a very corrupt country and a persecutor of Christians, and sending people of high ethnic minorities, particularly in like the easternmost part or westernmost parts of Ukraine with a high Hungarian ethnic population, to go to the front. So it seems that it kind of goes back to that whole bit about Leon Trotsky, when the Trotskys come out to play. It's his actual name that pays. So I don't know.
I think that, I mean, if America sort of, because that's never happened really, like a NATO country, it has kind of with Serbia and Syria, but when it comes to a NATO country engaging, like what would happen in terms of Article 5, I mean, like, because technically if Finland or Poland more likely, if they attack Belarus and Russia, I don't know what would happen. I mean, if Russia would obviously have to, and Belarus would obviously have to retaliate. But I think that maybe if the Americans slowly wipe their hands of it, the thing is, you got to realize that there's a lot of people within the Ukrainian military who aren't stupid. There are a lot of people who have experience, who have been there since 2014. And they, from what I've seen, from what people on both sides on Telegram who are in the front have said, is that more or less there's a perception that the Americans are goading them into doing this for some kind of optics victory. And there's a lot of very prudent people, very experienced people within the Ukrainian military, with the AFU, who they're starting to come around to the opinion of, why are we sacrificing people when we can have more of a defensive front? And this sort of game of like media hype is not going to translate into lasting political and military, political, and cultural victory. So I think that if there is enough level of people within the AFU who are starting to think of self-preservation, that's obviously a bad sign. And at the same time, I mean, you have to realize that people Astro was in a space today. They were talking about this. You have to realize that like Putin is much more of a liberal than people. I know, shocking, right? Hard to believe, but Putin's much more of a geopolitical liberal than people believe. I think that Putin is willing to take any deal that comes across the table that would ensure these regions. And I don't know how prudent that would be. So I think that the perception that both sides have of each other is probably being skewed by whatever propaganda, because the Russians as well have very incoherent propaganda as well. So I don't know. I mean, without saying too much, I think that it wouldn't shock me if we're in the same position June 2025. Sorry, what year are we in? 2023?
23, I know.
It's hard to say. Yeah. In June, I wouldn't be shocked if the war is still going on June 2024 near the elections. Put it that way. Near the summer full swing of the campaign in America. So is that usually when the full swing of the campaign is summer, right? Yeah.
Yeah, summer, summer and fall.
Yeah.
The first debates will probably start in September of next year.
Oh, wow.
So
that's going to be exciting.
And I mean, like, here's the thing. And what
total
makes this
content victory.
Oh, it will be. Honest to God, I cannot wait for the spring, or maybe even later this year. Who knows? I really can't wait for the primary debates. I can't.
Yeah.
I know it's like cigarettes. It's like alcohol. It's like candy. It's bad for you, but oh God, does it feel so good. And it's going to feel great watching the stage. The one thing that I think everyone is kind of banking on, and it's Thursday, and I'm kind of keeping track on it on Twitter on the other side of my tabs here, is that allegedly today he's supposed to get charged or indicted.
Oh, yeah, that's another issue. Yeah.
So who knows? And I mean, he's already got the lady with the cat named Vagina or whatever. He's got that one in New York that he physically has to be in. I think so. Or he's got another...
the Stormy Daniels one?
No. There's Stormy Daniels. There's that like New York actress or whatever. And then third, I think there's one about money. There's a New York case, and then there's the one about yeah, I know. The indictment. That's great.
A good one.
That's a good one. The indictment. Yeah. So it's supposed to come today, and I think they're supposed to do like the Espionage Act or whatever. So like they really want him in prison for 2024. We're gonna get a Eugene Debs style candidate, except it'll be instead of socialism, it'll be Make America Great Again from prison. And so I think that's why there's so much money and interest being pushed around Ron and everyone else, despite the fact that my favorite thing I've seen, I don't remember where I saw it, was just like it was on the timeline, but it was like autism awareness advocates are like really concerned about like allegations that Ron DeSantis has autism.
Oh boy.
They don't.
Then he would get the Twitter vote right away.
Oh well, if he did, right? No one on Twitter right now is looking at Ron DeSantis and goes, "He's literally me." You know, like that's not happening. It's bad. And I was talking with some of my favorite Floridians earlier this week, and they were just like, he's gonna get his ass beat for it on the stage, and it's bad. Like I don't think anyone does anyone remember how bad Marco Rubio got his butt handed to him on the debate? Like little Marco, the hands dick reference,
little hands Marco,
hands Marco, and then he gets obliterated in his home state by like 40 points. So it's just like, you know, I don't think anyone's got the message. Well, except maybe David Reboy, but I mean, I don't pay attention.
Oh, especially if the Panthers, if the Florida Panthers lose the playoffs. I think tonight they're down 2-0 against LA. I'm sorry, Las Vegas. So we'll see what happens. Meatball Ron's team isn't doing so good right now. But no, it is funny, like Ron having autism, or allegedly. What was the thing with his wife? His wife had some jacket, some like anti-woke signaling thing. What was that about? She had a leather jacket, his wife?
Something like that.
Yeah.
Although I noticed another, I guess, loss for like the right-wing Twitter space would be apparently like Lana Del Rey was in Brazil earlier than a couple of weeks ago. And so, you know, with the natives and all that jazz. So
oh my God.
I guess it's over for some of you.
There's a lot of female sex tourism in Brazil. People don't know this, but
well, it's also the country with the highest rate per capita of plastic surgery in the world.
Oh yeah.
More
even poor people in Brazil get plastic
surgery. Poor people in Brazil get BBLs, or they'll try their best to look like a lady boy or whatever. Like that's just the case.
Yeah.
Brazil mentioned. You're right. We have to
There you
represent
go.
the global South. This stream is obviously too white, so I mean, we got to mention Brazil, and we got to mention Geo's heritage. So.
There you go. It's true. Fatty Dello come on, Fishy. Internet friend.
I prefer Lana Del Fat. That's just
Lana Del Fat's a better one. Yeah. Like, what would be a good fat joke for Lana Del Rey? I don't know. I kind of like Fat Lana. I like Fat Lana. But
instead,
no, I mean,
instead of like your mail order bride Svetlana, you can get Lana.
Fat Lana gets Svetlana. Yeah.
We've got Svetlana at home. Svetlana at home.
Well, I'm sure the most the fattest Serbian or Ukrainian or Russian woman is probably I don't know, a 10 in North, probably not even approaching chubby in North America, but I don't know. I shouldn't say that. They Eastern Europe has a lot of fat women, but
Landra Del Mayo, Lana Del Taco. These are getting pretty good. You guys are improving. Keep it up, ladies and
this
gentlemen.
is Ghost
Lasagna Del Rey. I like that
Lasagna Del Rey.
There we go.
I like
both
Nona Del Rey.
Spasticus and Anonymous got it. These are good,
Yeah.
Gorda Del Rey.
Eastern Europe has obese women, but it's just
favela futurism.
Favela futurism.
Summertime Sadness is playing as you're on your little motorbike driving from your favela to pick up your own plastic surgery to GF to go out on a date.
Slavic women get fat when they turn 40. Yeah, but that's to be expected. That's not.
Oh man.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of. I shouldn't say that. Eastern Europe has a lot of plus size models actually, so.
I blame America for that one.
But they're fat in all the right places, so. Well,
we'll see how it goes come the recession and the war.
Oh boy, Trudeau shipping you one as
babushka expansionism. Yeah, that's basically what's happening, right?
Oh boy. But yeah, the whole you had a rant about the sort of view from the outside in the UFO phenomenon. I don't know. Could you do a thesis on Seraphim Rose and Nick Land talking about UFOs, or is that impossible? That's too theory cell.
I mean, I don't know what Nick Land thinks about UFOs.
We should ask him
to synthesize. I should ask him. Hey, Outsideness, what do you think of this UFO shit? Right? I mean, I could ask him. I'm mutuals with the man. I should ask him, but I don't know. You kind of get. Saint Seraphim Rose's answer in Orthodoxy and the Religion of the Future, where he's just because that book is more or less taking a look at sort of this spiritual fascination and desire for deification in say Eastern religions. He goes hard on Buddhism, and with I think very valid reason. But he discusses this sort of UFO phenomenon in ways in which the paying attention to the sky, the lights, and things like that's where he references Saint Simeon, the New Theologian, in there. And so, all that we're doing for is it's sort of what Blaise Pascal writes. There's a God-shaped hole in your heart, and if you're going to fill it not with the Lord, then you're going to fill it with something else. And this is a take as old as time, but I guess within Orthodoxy, there are multiple fathers and saints of the church that will tell you that no, that is a very physical and real plane of existence that you will be dealing with. And that's again why Saint Simeon says don't look too up in the sky when you're praying, because you are more likely to be deluded, which I think is a good thing in that respect. I mean, these things are real. Temptations, demonic presence, these things can be manifest. Why tempt yourself with that kind of belief? I mean, that would be sort of that take. I don't know what Land's position is, and I don't know if you could even remotely synthesize solemn providence, hyper neo-Calvinism versus the Orthodox position on the stars. I don't know if that could be done.
Well, I didn't know that Father Spyridon had a book on UFO Cine. I know in his videos he talks about the UFO phenomenon, warning against it as a form of possession. But also there is some kind of very interesting psychoanalytic content that comes from it. There is the case of that artist, what's his name? David something, that apparently had a relationship with an alien and was visited multiple times by this alien he called Crescent that he painted, and he has a lot of these very iconographic paintings of UFOs that are very like in a lot of modernist art styles, but it's very, very interesting how, I mean, he could just be a crackpot, right? But I mean, if it is, or if he was visited by some succubus or whatever, and he had like, apparently he donated his sperm to the UFOs, and he has hundreds of UFO children that he like activated by touching, waving his hand over them.
Extra luxury, like gay automated extraterrestrial sex tourism or something like that.
Yeah. But he had a relationship with this Crescent woman. Yes, I have a GF. You wouldn't know her. She's from another planet. Yeah, the James T. Kirk option of
but yeah, the James T. Kirk option of spreading your seed across the stars.
Yeah.
To a point where they reference the meme on Star Trek the motion picture, because she'll come, this beautiful Indian model plays what later is called Beecher, because she gets like turned into a robot or whatever. But she goes up there and she's like, Captain Kirk, my vows of celibacy are like on the record, and you're like, where the hell did this come from? But they're like, everyone knows that Kirk's just this disgusting womanizing man now well into his 50s. That's the final frontier, baby.
The final frontier, exactly.
But it does,
pussy
Sean,
got me acting strange.
I know. That Xeno, anyways, has got me acting strange. But it's funny, Sean, because like there's that always reminds me of that Far Side comic where like the aliens are like, yeah, like we know Jesus, like he's one of the coolest guys ever. What did you all do to him? In clear reference to the crucifixion, and just sort of chuckles.
Boy.
It's like,
yeah.
But I'm not inclined to, I'm always to be mindful of it, that sort of St. Paisios, keep your mind in hell and despair not type deal, because I don't know what's gonna happen.
I think what's interesting is that the Orthodox have a very have a sort of a take on the UFO phenomenon that unites all of these different worlds, in the sense of it being a spiritual manifestation that can lead you into error. And the fact that Father Seraphim, he interacted with these UFO cults back in the 70s.
Yeah.
And and there's sort of a, like, the whole like Xeno UFO Christ is another theory. Like the Raelians basically worship this egalitarian.
It's the Prometheus plot too.
Yeah, Prometheanism. Exactly. Well, I mean, Giorgiani has a.
Yeah.
Let's not talk about that. Because that was sort of like a impetus for another war I was involved in with a certain podcaster. But I feel like when it comes to with the Orthodox, it's interesting because you have, for the first time, I mean, there has been Catholic writers who have alluded to the UFO phenomenon, but it's very explicit in Orthodoxy about how it's a spiritual manifestation. And I feel like it does unite a lot of different worlds in terms of the engagement of our sort of view of modernity and our sort of the outside of a truly planetary politics and culture. And that's another thing too that the Orthodox warn against when it comes to ecumenism, is that when you think about it, you have like the Reagan speech I mentioned before on this stream. When you think of the way in which people treat this sort of like Redditified attitude of the UFO being a creation, or at least a site of a planetary politics, that is sort of like a political ecumenism that would erase distinction, that would do the bidding of the glowies and of, these types. I mean, as much as I do think that there is validity to the UFO phenomenon, I think that that's a massive danger to sort of like get people and get governments to admit to it, to say that, see, this is why we're all one race, the human race.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. Isn't it funny how all these like global existential crises always lead to the same gay global world governments, more communism type deal? Like this is the biggest well, it's not even a dialectical problem. It's just like the real problem with like any sort of climate change discussion.
Yes.
It's just that I do not think it requires globalism to solve this crisis. Because like when I posted that short story yesterday, it's called Painting Plumes. You can go read it. It's a little vignette, and it was just about a guy on his phone looking at the like hazy, smoke-filled sky around him out in the Catskill Mountains in New York. But like one of the comments I got from that, and again, I post fiction, people spurg out at me in the comments. I love it. I love it so much. But he asked me, and he's just like, I don't think you understand how bad the air quality is. And apparently he thought I lived in New York, because I wrote the story.
Oh,
But he was just like, the air quality indicators are far worse in India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, and China. And I was like, well, yeah, I know that. Like, those are some of the worst polluters on earth, India and China especially. Like, you're never going to get an answer to it. And like, if globalism is this like Western project to undermine,
you
like,
could, but you can't say it in public.
Well, sure, right. Don't care.
You have to
Don't
go
care.
to some anime avatar on Twitter to talk about the real.
Oh yeah, I know, right? Like, yeah, those. Why is there a giant like land mass of tires that are just being burned in some Middle Eastern country that apparently I have to eat crickets for? Like, no, that's not how this shit works. But
it's not just in Springfield, right?
Yeah, it ain't just in Springfield, baby. It's a real problem. But it's that's the case, right? This is that is the plot of Watchmen as well, is that he like facilitates the creation of something to blame it as aliens to end the Cold War, and millions must die, so New York has to be destroyed.
Yeah.
So yeah, right. It only white
Biden are great. Why are there 8 billion people? Oh my God, you people are vicious. But no, I mean,
yeah, but that's the point, right?
Denounce.
We stand back, standing by.
The Digital Archipelago has no opinion on any of this stuff. So
absolutely, we are merely observers of the internet. That's why we're here. But no, I think it does raise some interesting points as to why, like, for instance, why is every environmental problem in America or in the world has to be tackled on by like fully automated global communism or whatever? Like, it's just you'll never get the actual answers to the problem. Like, I have to tell the third world, hey, stop being a developing country and stop being, and that's the argument you're going to get, is that's why the whole colonialism discourse is so awful.
Yeah.
It's like, you guys were allowed to have an industrial revolution off all the backs and blood of brown and black body, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, I don't care. Like, stay winning. Like, I guess, right?
It is what it is.
And
I mean,
it is.
No, because people can't externalize. Oh, go ahead, Prue. Go ahead.
Yeah, all I was going to say is, like, at the end of the day, right? Like, I think that's the big political debate, and that's why like the third worldism stuff is never going to go away, right?
Yeah.
Because on one hand, yeah, like there was resource extraction, like this is well documented, like we did it. Like there's a whole resource curse with respect to like Spanish and Portuguese expansion into the New World, and it's just like, well, there's that, and then at the same time, like you have all these other developing countries. What makes it worse is that China and India have nuclear weapons. If they didn't have nukes, I think the environmentalism discourse would be totally different.
Oh, 100%.
And we'd be full on neo-colonial. Like, actually, no, that open door policy was not a bad idea. We're going to carve up China. We're going to do what we need to do. We're going to we're gonna do it. So, but yeah, that's that. I think if they didn't have nukes, the discourse would be totally different. But I'm definitely gonna happily be my colonizer ways of just like we did it first. Sorry, and that's just the way it's gonna be. Like,
I think if you look at a grander view of history, you could see that. Well, I mean, first of all, people have conquered everybody. I mean,
yeah, like this isn't new.
Yeah. This isn't new in human history. I mean, it's just that there's even that, it's funny because that was like the libtard opinion in the 1990s was what's his name?
It can't be a war crime if it's the first time.
Yeah, exactly. Jared Diamond.
Guns, Germs, and Steel, the geographical determinism shit livery kind of argument.
That's racist, apparently.
Well, he's had to pull back on it a lot. Yeah. Like, he's made some public retractions to a point where also like I know he's got cancer now and that sucks, but like the Hank and John Green like science stuff that they did a whole rant about why like geographic determinism was wrong. And I remember like Sargon did like a video or stream on it, and he got them to like pull back and retract, which I thought was interesting. But I mean, like, there is some.
Well, why is it wrong though? I mean, is Europe not a primary land resource and geostrategically in a very good place? Same with North America. Like, it's just, why can't, like, it's so ridiculous. We have to deny. Well, of course, that's
like we haven't even changed like a lot of our geopolitics stuff from like a century ago, like 1920 or 1910. None of that stuff has changed. Like, we still look at things through the lenses of like Mackinder and Speakman and Brzezinski, which are all these ideas that we're talking about, like the great game in the 19th century. Like, none of that stuff has changed. The only thing that's really changed is, quote unquote, the Eastern question, because the Ottoman Empire is dead and they're kind of like this quasi-Western satrapy. But I mean, like, that's just definitely something that I don't understand why you're not opposed to it. I mean, there's books written by like Hispanic and Mexican academics that are like, the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, which like cut off California from Mexico, was a geographical determining factor for why Mexico is the way that it is for a big reason. And it's just like, yeah, that's a good point, you know.
Well,
like,
people mentioning in the chat as well. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Prude. Sorry.
But no. I mean, there's also the biological aspect to it too, but that opens up a whole HBD can of worms.
That's another can of worms. But people are mentioning in the chat how, for example, Ryan Falk had a video about it, debunking it. How sort of Jared Diamond, he is an anti-racist in the sense of like his project is to say that Europeans don't have a uniqueness of them. There's no such thing as a sort of Faustian spirit, if you will, or even the spirit of other civilizations, but rather we're cold entities of biology and geographic determinism, which really does rob peoples of their uniqueness, not just Europeans, but also other people of their own ilk. And, you know, so, but at the same time, I bring this up because the whole colonialism thing is very interesting, how this becomes kitschified in modern political discourse, in that, like, you know, it's like this poptimism of politics of like, well, it's colonialism, you're a settler, blah, blah, blah. It's like now people create this like sort of quasi-globalist identity around it, which is
colonizer, you know.
Yeah, like the black
you
Twitter
forgot the Giga Chat image. Like, I don't.
Well,
you know.
No, but that's what I mean. Like, it's we did it first, we did it better, and there's a number of reasons why, and not all of it's just because of the uniqueness of Europe, but also there's a geographic element there, and there's an environmental element there. But what I wanted to really say is that you can't. I know that you know, I shouldn't say it a lot because this gets into questions of the sort of like messianic truth of history. But I don't think you can externalize empathy into history to such a degree of saying that the world peoples were affected by Europeans, and this is the great tragedy. And it's like this very, like, I would say, this robbery and secularization of a Christian ethic that's been polluted and perverted, to say that you have to extend empathy into history, and that, you have a unique sin by virtue of being descendant of a European. It's like this very, like, crazy politics that cross-cuts either the dialectics of Marxism or any sort of politics based on, a Christian worldview. It's sort of a corruption of all fronts, where you sort of take this, like, universalism, this baseless, kitschified universalism, to say that, even Zizek talked about this before, he went crazy. It's like this sort of baseless universalism. We're all one race, the human race, blah, blah, blah. And it's like we have
and who buys into that, though? I mean, it's a shit-lib platitude, but even they don't believe it, because, like, this is the ultimate, like, here's the corollary to, and I posted about this on Telegram, which is linked down below. Like, I posted about this with, like, the corollary to Kovefe Anand's "the woke are more correct than the mainstream" is that it's just a brutally honest inversion of what a reactionary believes. Because, like, when they say, for instance, and there's a t-shirt about this, you can find it, it's awful, that when they say, oh, by the way, like, we find children, attractive or whatever, like, when pride people say that, they'll say that they find kids to be attractive. The woke are more correct than the mainstream in this instance. And so what does that mean? The inverse of that means what we already know, that there is a propensity for a certain type of individuals to be attracted to children. They should be kept away from them at all costs, versus what they're saying, which is, what they tell you, believe them. And it just does illustrate that. And I think
like, who said it in the chat? Today's leftist generation of Christianity, who's saying there's a coalition of, like, this multicultural coalition against European civilization. Is like, you know what I mean? Like, things like colonialism and everything is more complicated than people think, because like, cultural diffusion is more complicated than people think, and to the extent that those histories are very, like, taught, the way that they're taught in academia is very one-dimensional and very of a certain opinion against a certain demographic of people, namely Europeans. And it's very interesting how this kitschified one-dimensionality of how world history operated is very much like in some ways, a creation myth of a current iteration of, like, post-civil rights Western world, in a way. It's like how Marxism has their own sense of messianic creation myth of the dialectic of history. It's very much like you have to sort of take very complicated relations and histories and break them down into this small, like, monosyllabic mess of saying that, you know, the world engine is run by the exploitation and greediness and whatever of white people or whatnot. It's very like very it's
Well,
very
it's
yeah,
almost like an
it's-
inversion of the like chosen people let my people go stuff.
well, yeah, but now it's applied to, like, you know, the world in some weird
Yeah,
way.
I mean it's global.
It's like the New Testament version of, you know, the civil rights movement. Right now, the whole world will have American-style civil rights litigation. So
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah, like
yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
that's the new United Nations. Like if we ever get a United Nations World Charter, like number 2, like the
Yeah.
the UN Human Declaration of Human Rights 2.0 will be like the Civil Rights Act of 1964, but like
Right.
globalized. Like I imagine that will come soon, right? It's just that we'll have these like there'll be Hague trials for like European style like captains of industry that'll do it. And I mean it does intend to weaponize, of course, narcissism, victim complexes, and I mean like you get the whole sort of capital theory of like expansion, and which has been famously been like the like basic interpretation of all forms of imperialism. And like I'm working on a like this lengthy discussion on like how do we define it, because so much of this is based on like that 1910 paper on like the history of imperialism, which is nothing but just like capital pursuit. And I mean, don't get me wrong, like that plays even to this day in international relations. That's still predominantly true. What is the first priority of all nations is to secure hegemony and to ensure that you can repel invaders and borders to defend territorial sovereignty. That way you can keep existing. That's
this is the Mearsheimer regional players.
But I mean but this is even before Mearsheimer. I mean, this goes back to like Morgenthau. This goes back to like Hazlitt and Mackinder. Like it goes back to this English tradition from like 200 years ago, like long before Mr. Mearsheimer was born in Brooklyn and during the baby boom. But it's just like what it indicates is that like, yeah, you kind of do need capital resources to do it. I mean, like, and even before capitalism as we know it exists, that's always been the case. And so it kind of gets like this historicized idea gets transliterated into like the modern zeitgeist, and here we are. Like, and that's definitely something that comes out of the problem. But I mean,
but that's what I mean. Like,
go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Prudy. You finish your point, because I had a longer point about Christianity.
All I was going to say is to sort of chime off default friend here is like, yeah, it definitely does get it gets translated back to like what gets called like the third world, because like all we have to do is look at South Africa, and I mean all of our friends that we have down there, our colleagues, including next week we will be on with our friend Conscious Caracol to talk about this show, which feels kind of meta, but neither here nor there. You know, like wokeness, as we call it, or like what I just called anti-civilizational, like just leftism. That's all.
Yeah, wokeness. I hate that word.
I hate that word. I hate it.
It's just I'm trying to find ways to not say
leftism.
Yeah.
Like I have no other word for it. It's just leftism.
Anti-civilization.
Leftism.
Yeah,
international leftism. Those European-styled socialists. You know those. I just call it anti-civilization. Like,
what did Sargon used to call them?
I have no idea.
I think he just called them wokesters.
I think he did, or something like that. But I mean, they're all streaming at the same time. Cindy, you've got Oren streaming.
Sargon's stream sniping us right now.
I hope not.
Oh boy,
but he's on with Oren right now, and so is
tell Sargon to come on the show.
Yeah, tell Sargon to follow me back, because he used to follow me on all his alts. That anyways.
Oh man.
But anyways, with that respect, yeah, Trump did say he doesn't like the term woke either, which I think was a nice play to undercut the issue of talking about putting away the woke mind virus. Like, yeah, well, cool. It's nice to see Musk and DeSantis still kind of getting undercut, but like it's a terrible term. It's the same thing with the woman question, like the what is a woman question. Like, unless you have given some thought about it for more than 5 seconds, you're going to get ambushed respectfully about what is a woman. The
exceptions,
right?
Yeah.
And so those things definitely do happen. The entropic left, entropy is still, I think, a really good definition. Millstone candidates, I like that one too, because absolutely, Matthew 18 comes to mind.
Oh, that's a bit too fed.
18-6, right? Yeah, I don't know. I like what Dave at Strunk Daddy is doing, where he just like posts a millstone every day.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
yeah.
But SJWs, yeah, let's go far back in time. Those SJWs.
That's very far back in time.
That's very far back.
SJWs.
SJWs, yeah. but no, to get the
saying woke, you're mentally you're mentally owning
You're- yeah,
yourself to the left because that's their terminology.
you're fighting on their territory.
You're implicitly admitting that woke means you're awakened to the truth of things, and you're basically saying, when you say like woke mind virus, you're saying, well, you're admitting to the truth.
You're admitting that they're right, which again goes
Yeah.
back to Kovefeanon's point. But
And
like,
exactly, it's eubonics. Like, come on, it's
yeah, but it does
Yeah.
illustrate, right, that there's this it's the ebonic version of the red pill.
Have you taken the Biden J. Graper pledge, Prude, to not? No, never mind.
I don't want to know. I don't want to know.
To not use terminology from like eubonics. No, actually, I believe it was Mika Griper that did that, where it's like don't use like eubonic terms.
I yearn back to 2013.
Yeah.
I don't.
But they're so ubiquitous that it is hard to, like, when you say like so and so be like, or like, because it's Twitter lingo is like caught up within.
Well,
Black
yeah,
Twitter
because
lingo,
Black
yeah.
Twitter is the ultimate spectacle. Because it doesn't matter if you're like a shit lib or like an internet racist.
Yeah.
Everyone is paying attention to what they say. And what was awful was I think it was some Coptic woman was tweeting, and Ethiopian Coptic Orthodox or something like that. She was tweeting. She's like, because there was that video of like they said that this is like an African American cure for like headaches, and the woman just
that one,
like a washcloth over her son's head and puts like the water bottle tipped over, and you see the air coming up from it. And she goes, I'm looking at the quote tweets, and people are saying that those are headache particles. Like, we're never going to make it. And I was like, that again, these are reasons why people all kind of
how can that get rid of your headache?
I don't know.
Is that sort of like some pseudoscience snake oil thing?
I don't know. Maybe it's an old wives' tale or something like that.
Maybe it hydrates the scalp or something. I don't know. Yeah.
I mean,
I'm being charitable. Okay?
So am I. Like, I'd like to know. I'm sure. Is there a reason for it? I don't know. Who knows?
Did you see about the cookout? Did you see about the chainsaw thing and the Nightmare Vision?
I did.
Oh, by the way, I'm going to be on with Nightmare Vision today, and Patrick Casey Restoring Order at 7, I believe. But yeah, we're so apparently this daughter and mother and daughter invited grandma over and did a bit of Leatherface with a chainsaw to the grandmother. I think it was over. Yeah, but it was over. Oh my God. Was it about they ate her, but I think it was also some like insurance money or I don't know, something. And Nightmare Vision quote tweets it with, they invited her to the cookout. And I'm like, oh my God, that's terrible.
That was
Nightmare Vision is the best.
The worst one I saw, which put him in like which topped Nightmare Vision's tweet. I'm sorry.
Really?
I hate this. I hate this one. Where it was a video. Smoke alarms chirping. You can hear chainsaw going off, and then smoke coming up. Oh boy.
Oh man, that was brutal.
Remember, let's eat grandma and let's eat grandma. Commas save lives. They really do.
Man,
they really do.
I love how like internet racism has gone so like to the point of like you immediately know like the smoke alarm thing, and it's like when you could just like say broken branch, you automatically know what you mean. It's like the Wyhan who's back on Twitter.
Isn't that kind of sad to some extent? But actually, no, it's not sad. But it does illustrate, like, it does give sort of these shit libby people like the perfect ammunition for what they mean. These people are racist. They're right, but they're racist, and this is a problem. And
it's the Marge Simpson, I mean, you may be right, but you shouldn't say it.
Right. Like, and then like you get all these internet journos that are like, why? Or like they were going after like Dago supremacist or whatever a while back, and they're like, I wouldn't understand why Senator J.D. Vance follows these racists. And I just think of Marge Simpson holding like his account, like, I just think they're neat,
Yeah. I just think they're neat.
I just think JJ the Jack-Off plane is neat. I wish he would get his accounts restored.
Oh my God, yeah. Now he's just the little engine that touched himself. But it's funny though. He has
train engine. I love him.
He's had some fire tweets on Fat Lana recently. But no, what I was going to say, I think like about the colonialism thing is that yeah, Anita was right. Everything is race. Exactly. I think that it's very interesting how when you have a system, how can you litigate trauma of the past without a notion of messianic salvation, without a notion that history has already come to a head in the sense of a divine saving grace from that history? I think that's very interesting. It's very interesting how the secularization of Christianity among like the international left ideology of the end of history ideology is trying to relitigate the ashes of the wake of the greatness of certain forms of civilization that have largely been created by Europeans, Asians, and the like. And it's very interesting how the sort of political theology of it is trying to relitigate the ashes. But in Christianity, there is sort of the final salvation, the final sacrifice. There is that possibility of redemption and universal salvation in that final act of sacrificial giving over, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that what's very interesting is that they have this sort of complex that almost reaches into a metaphysical proportion around sort of collective trauma or collective historical trauma or collective, what do they call it? Intergenerational trauma.
Yeah,
That is a
intergenerational
metaphysical
trauma.
yeah, like that is a metaphysical claim. What is the answer to that? If not meeting that as a psycho biopolitical category, it becomes eminentized into the material, right? Then only their solution is the material. Either it's like reparations on like the better end, or on the very far end, it is things I probably can't say on YouTube what these activists want to do to us, you know. So it's very interesting that way. But then at the same time, I mean, without getting too Fed posty, I think that a lot of it is sort of I don't know, political LARPing, for lack of a better term. And I think that when you actually do analyze this rhetoric and you sort of like see like, you know, why should we feel ashamed for what our ancestors built? The same people telling you that you should like not feel proud about what your ancestors built are the same people saying that they gain legitimacy through the suffering of their ancestors. So it's like, I know it's a very normie tier, like right-wing point, but it is kind of, when you think about it, there is a lot of metaphysical implications to that. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
yeah, slavery can only be replayed with slavery. Well, a lot of people think like, a lot of activists actually do think.
Yeah, there are plenty of like. I mean,
yeah.
it takes 5 seconds to understand what these people are doing.
There are people that are tenured professors that believe that. So.
I mean, there was. I don't know if it was just some Antifa account or someone else, but they were like, they had an AI generated image of like baby infant Elon Musk, and like, would you do what you have to do?
Oh, that one I saw.
And it's just
that.
like,
yeah.
for God's sake. I mean, again, if when they tell you what they believe them.
Believe them. Yeah,
that's the answer. They believe them.
Did you see that AEW wrestling like trans Antifa account that was?
Yeah,
like,
I did.
If you oppose BLM and if you oppose trans children, then you're a Austrian painter. And then it's like had 3 likes, but then like 50 quote tweets of like people saying, "Oh, I guess you know." That was hilarious. Average AEW fan. Yeah, listen. I have to admit, some of the AEW product is good. I mean, Bryan Danielson, right? But I mean, even Kenny Omega, if you put him in the right context. But man, there a lot of leftist coal with like the average Reddit r/squared circle wrestling fan. I mean, the fan base of professional wrestling is not very good, folks. Okay, it's not. But anyways, what are you gonna do?
Can't do much about that, kids.
You know, when I think of AEW, I think of that one image of Kenny Omega like pointing to the sign that says "Protect Trans Children" in the crowd. I remember I had this tweet once, but I didn't want to get quote tweeted by anybody. I didn't want to end up on Reddit r/squared circle, but I had I had a picture where it's this like soy jack, like the guy's just as fat as me, but he had like a beard and he had glasses. And he had a sign where Kenny Omega is pointing to it in like, you know, favorably that said "Protect Trans Children." And it's got like the AEW logo in like the pink stripes, right?
Yeah.
And I had a sign where it was that, but then I had a sign next to it where it was a wrestling fan on a house show from like 1991 that said that Shawn Michaels has AIDS. So it's like, I'm like, and it's like this working class guy with a mustache. He kind of looked like you, but if you were like, built, if you were stocky. I'm like, what happened to professional wrestling? That was a sign back in the 1990s. Shawn Michaels has AIDS. Next to like protect trans children, and it's Kenny Omega next to, so. Anyways, that's a wrestling rant. I mean, I'm sure me and AA could talk about that another time, but
I'm surprised you two haven't had a second stream on
professional wrestling. Yeah, I know.
I'm
crazy.
genuinely surprised by that.
Especially now the Iron Sheik died. By the way, oh yes, rest in peace to the Iron Sheik. Me and my old man, we can't stop quoting the Iron Sheik for years now from his shoot interviews. But RAP to the Iron Sheik. He will be truly missed. He was a wrestling legend. And he was a prolific man. He won Pan Am Games in the 60s. He was a personal bodyguard. Yeah, F in the chat for the Iron Sheik. Did you know the Iron Sheik was a personal bodyguard of the Shah of Iran?
Yes.
Before he went to America?
Only because AA told me.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Remember, I'm in one of the few. I'm in a group chat with him both here on Twitter and on Telegram. So any wrestling reference, either A gets explained or B I have to go look up to understand it. So yeah. He's made it clear about.
So we got a solid wall of F's in the chat, and another thing too. I haven't seen any super chats. What the hell are you people doing?
I know.
So need those super chats to Prude. I mean, we forgot to show it. We have to remind our fans to give super chats.
I know, but I also have the camera on, so I can't turn on the what's the word I'm looking for? Hold on. There you go.
There you go.
You know what to do, ladies and gentlemen. You know what.
Did you get any entropy ones?
So entropy was being a little screwy earlier about.
Oh, I forgot. By the way, I forgot.
They did pay. They've started paying back out. But. I was going to try Power Chat like iHypocrite does, and that's what I was going to test out. But I know I have the link as the pinned comment. They are paying out again. They're just a little frustrating in that respect. But
forgot last week. I'm not going to say his name because it's got his full name. I got on my. It was at the end of the stream. I forgot to mention it, but I'm going to call him Josh. Sent me $10 Canadian on. PayPal. So thank you, Josh. Thank you for the super chat. He said weekend with friends. Thank you for the show. That was from last week. So I forgot to mention him. So thank you, Josh, for the super chat for PayPal. And I believe Prude links my PayPal there through Find My Friends. So
yeah, all your stuff is linked down there. But I mean, like,
come on, what do you mean $1.99? You people fucking kidding me?
Gio, it is okay. It's
$1.99. Right. Come on. I'm gonna stop this. See, I'm doing the Amazing Atheist.
You are. Oh my! Speaking of which, I loved the fact that because I don't follow TJ at all. He's one of those like ancient history lolcows that I just don't bother with.
Ancient. I've hated this guy since 2000.
And then Howling Mutant out of nowhere goes, "Never will you find a reply so hard." And it's the Amazing Atheist defending his endowment.
Oh boy!
He's like, "Well, it's not micro," and I'm just like, "Oh my gosh, this man has tweeted this," and even. J.K. Rowling was just like, I don't want to know about what that man does with fruit, and it just kills me every time. This is the world that we live in. That this is all permanently on record. And I was driving home yesterday, and I was just listening to.
Look, I love how they're lowering the super chat just to fuck with me.
Oh, I don't care. It's all right. I enjoyed the fact that I was listening to iHypocrite talk about that character, and then all of a sudden he's just like, apparently Destiny had his wife's stuff leaked, and I was just thinking to myself, this is insane. Like, all this is forever. Like, once you become that big of a personality, this is your life. You don't get to go back to it. How do you explain the 6-year gap on your resume? How do you? Like, I was a streamer. My entire political views are on display as a record for 15 years now, and this is it. This is what you have to do, and double down. And I think that it's just a ridiculous thing to
I
believe
Leafy leaked her.
Yeah, Leafy did it, and apparently he's got a contract with Rumble, which, whew.
Oh my god.
And so I was just listening to iHypocrite talk about it, and the internet is a dangerous place. It is that's the ridiculous thing to consider, is that this stuff is. Oops, thank you. I'm trying to click on other comments. Yeah, I signed an NDA, right? Like those. Yeah, that's a good answer, Sean. Right? Is that you signed a non-disclosure? But I mean, like these are all ridiculous things to consider. Like these are your records forever. I mean, even for myself, right? Like I've been on for like almost 3 years. Everything I've ever said, jokingly or unjokingly, is now on like a permanent record forever.
Yeah,
The
that
internet's
does
forever.
screw me up. Eh?
Like unless you're
jokes.
unless you're what's the word I'm looking for? No, you want to know the reason why I do it is also for a lot of reasons to kneecap myself.
Yeah.
There are a lot of things that I agree with, and there are a lot of things that I can't RT. Martin is a very good example of this, and a lot of things like that. And yeah, the internet's forever. I agree with that, but at the same time, like it also prevents me from throwing up a Roman on stream or something, right? You know, like those are things that you don't want to do. And so yeah, that's the way that it is. And you know, perhaps one day I can this is why I have throwaway cats. I have an
I don't know if I've jokingly
I've got alts for that purpose,
before.
right? You know?
I don't know if I've jokingly thrown up a Roman before. I think it was Kashuda.
I know Curtis Yarvin has.
Yeah, I know he has. Yeah. But he gets to do it though. He gets to do it. But it's I don't know. I think like one time with Kashuda, it was the Nah, never mind. I don't know. I mean, I've probably said edgy things. I mean, the only really edgy joke I did was around April 20th about like Columbine, but that was
your
like
four men stood against the test of time tweet or whatever.
Yeah, against time. Yeah, that's the only like really edgy thing I could think of. I haven't like I mean, I find a lot of like humor in our spheres funny, but it's not like retweet. Oh yeah, that's right. The BTR I did for.
Oh yeah, well, that's forever. That's forever.
But what are you gonna do, eh?
That's true. It's blood memories. It's blood. It's a genetic epiphenomenon for Geo's Italian blood.
Though, I mean, I don't exactly post spinny wheels or whatever.
It's your gene song, you know.
That was also to troll Lev. That was another thing too. But what are you gonna do, man? It's I mean, I don't know. I kind of joke. I don't know if I threw up a full Roman, but that was. I mean, the Hill Pooler thing is close enough, but it's. Yeah, well, what political career? I have no political career.
Yeah, it's not like either of us are ever going to be on.
Yeah, we're not going to be advisors to.
It's not like we're going to get hired on to anyone's administration. You know, like the only thing. I don't want to have to hide my politics. That's another good point. Because like that was, honest to God, the greatest thing that has happened to me in like the last couple of months were these two IRL events. I had a great chance to meet our friend at Boniface Option, Andrew Isker. He came down to New Founding, and it was just like 6 white guys, including like Logan Clark Hall and I. We were all just having at barbecue downtown Dallas, talking about how like sick this Dylan Mulvaney shit is, and like how they're gonna like get rid of like how the last. Oh, I can say this because YouTube changed the policy. How the last election was stolen and all that jazz, and it was just like. What a great time it was to just talk openly and laugh about these sick, degenerate people in public. It felt so good.
Yeah.
So good. And then I had a great opportunity to meet Oren McIntyre IRL earlier this week and had dinner with him. He's a great guy. And it was just a fantastic way to I can have a public conversation in a restaurant out in the open and talk about these things. And it was fantastic. And so, yeah, it was just really good. And you want stuff. You want to be able... victory to me is when liberals have to talk in secret places about their opinions.
Oh boy.
You know, like I don't want them. I want them to be the disgusting internet anons that we can ban with our power off the internet. I want what we're talking about to be common coffee shop conversations where I can read my copy of Hour of Decision in a coffee shop and not worry about the ramifications. I'm sorry. That's the way that it should be. But it's
also,
not. It's not.
I think
not yet.
Yeah, it hasn't happened.
Not yet.
We can
one day base world will come.
Base world within our reach, but I think also there's a difference between like throwing up a casual like to spoof the situation of like people calling Putin an Austrian painter and also to troll my co-host at the time, than like going to a rally and like very unoptical sort of throwing up Romans. But I don't know. I mean, not that there's much of a difference to leftists, right? But it is funny that way. Like I remember from the beginning of the war, the whole like Putin is Putler thing is like, well, but
I mean, that's the perfect example of like, I mean, Oren did his little video about how you have to serve somebody, But I mean, like the leftism is like the spirit of the age really is just like, and that's what my video on the spirit of the age is, because like everyone from Francis Parker Yockey to Roger Hazlitt to Saint Seraphim Rose has talked about it, where it's just like, well, what is it? And I mean, for us, the spirit of the age in 2023 is this like, anti-fascist leftism. Like it's international anti-fascism. That's really what it is. And it's just a really, like, again, like if you come here and you want to, like, again, this is the weird bio-Leninist thing. Like if you're a Muslim and you come here, you kind of have to throw out the commandments of your so-called prophet out the window in order to get the Gibbs, the social status, the engineering, because unlike in the UK, even though they should not be in that country, even though in the UK they can go and resist against LGBT education. And we even saw today on Twitter that Canadian school teacher telling a Muslim student, this is not for you. You shouldn't be here.
Did you see the CBC had a kids video on what LGBTQ plus I? Did you see that, Martin? Share it?
No, I did see that your prime minister stumbled over the LGBTQI double SQ plus whatever it's called. I mean, like the alphabet people are having their field day with it, but I mean, like that is sort of like the spirit of the age, where it's just like, screw your religious convictions, your bloodline or whatever. Like, are you on the right side of history? Are you owning the chuds? Are you like, are you forsaking all that sort of stuff in order to be on the right side of history and to do what's necessary? Like that's where we're at. And I think that that's the real tempting thing for religious people is, well, how do you combat that? Because I mean, it doesn't just apply to Christianity. It applies to almost all forms of organized religion. That, there's a woke interpretation for, I hate that word, there's a leftist interpretation for the religion, whether it's pride flags inside Episcopal churches or, being a proud queer Canadian Muslim, right? Like it exists.
I think, I forget who said it. It may have been, who said it back in the day when they were talking about Justin Trudeau, like gay neoliberal Islam. No, it was coming filth, gay neoliberalism, because he was talking about Trudeau in a pride parade, and this should be offensive to any Muslim watching this. Trudeau in the I believe it was Pride 2018, where he had this, like, he loves the socks. He loves wearing these. It was a pride flag, but it was also the Muslim crescent on the pride flag, in like he was wearing on the socks. So if you're a Muslim, hey, that's our prime minister right there.
I mean, what's funny is that like on top of the domes of some like Russian and like Greek churches, they have a crescent below the cross on the top of the dome. So is to signify Islam's defeat under Christianity. He's literally doing the same thing with the pride socks.
Oh my God, I didn't know.
He's literally have told the star, the moon, the crescent, sorry, you submitted to, you prostrated before the pride flag.
Which is another thing too about Putin, like, Putin's Islamizing Europe, and like, because he has Cossack soldiers. I'm pretty sure, like, I mean, who's importing like tens of millions of Muslims into Western Europe? Is it Putler, or is it
is it the consequences of America's intervention into Iraq, Afghanistan, and Syria?
So, I mean,
not like, that I'm defending the guy, but your blame is directed at the wrong person. You should be looking at David Frum and like David French,
Bill
and
Kristol,
George W. Bush, and Bill Kristol.
Which, that's another thing I wanted to rant on, that Daniel tweet. Like, first of all, these Silicon Valley people, they're not your friend, by the way. Okay, like even if there's base Silicon Valley people.
Is this his made tweet that he had? Or
about like America should be on top no matter what. I don't care about pride parades. And then he's like, you're just a weak person if you don't believe in like this Morgenthau liberalism version of America, where they like
which Morgenthau? That's the real question.
Yeah, well, I mean, like
there's Henry Morgenthau, and then there's the other Morgenthau who is like that's the problem. Is I did a lecture on like realism, and I was like, Hans Morgenthau is like one of the fathers of like modern 20th century realism in foreign affairs. You're like, why are you supporting that Morgenthau? I'm like, it's a different one. It's not the Treasury Secretary. It's not the guy that did the Morgenthau plan,
but that's what I mean. Like, you saw those tweets, right? And it's just like, it's ridiculous. Like, if you have an empire that fundamentally hates its own people, I mean, I don't see the merit of America conquering, like, not that I think that Russia or China should conquer the West or whatever, but I'm saying, like, I don't see the merit in this neocon. Like, someone quote tweeted this Daniel guy who's like another Silicon Valley fucking shill with like a picture of Bill Kristol in the speech bubble. Like, that's what Bill Kristol believes. That's what Jennifer Rubin and David Frum
that's Billy Crystal, Herlock Sholmes.
Yeah.
That's Billy Crystal.
Yeah,
and he's
Billy
still
Crystal,
a shitlib, but I mean,
you know what's funny is it's sort of like where your kids are dumbasses compared to you, because I mean, okay, yes, he's the father of neoconservatism, but I mean, not to praise him or anything, but Irving Kristol, like, I mean, come on, that was an intellectual. I mean, he's pretty evil, but like, you know, neoconservatives are pretty evil. But I mean, come on, you can't compare the father to the son. Bill
not
Kristol
in that respect. No,
intellectually, no way.
Intellectually, one is the male son.
Yeah, same with Trudeau Senior. You can't compare Pierre to Justin. I mean, come on, that's
just the case.
But I'm saying, like, Bill Kristol, that's what he believes. He believes that America, even if it oppresses its own citizenry and demoralizes them and fundamentally destroys them both culturally, physically, genetically, in terms of, like, you know, the industrial food process, spiritually oppresses their own citizens. It's like, well, I mean, we're at the top of the ashes. So it's like, to me, it's just nihilism. It's sort of like the Anatoly Karlin tweet, right? About like, well, I mean, that's where real power is. That's what smart people believe in. So it's like, we have to fetishize IQ, right? As a raw matter material IQ. So it's like, well, I mean, if all the smart people believe in the global gay pride parade, then it's like, well, we have to believe in that too. It's like,
no intelligence at all.
No, but like, that's what I mean. Like, if you're worshiping power and IQ as raw properties, not even the most like far right Nietzschean eugenicist, whatever, like cartoonishly evil anime avatar racist believes in that. They believe that, you know, why do you believe in a civilization? Like, you believe in it for some reason. You know, you don't believe in it because like this is what smart people believe in, or like this is what power truly lies. It's just like like there's a reason why if you are a person that believes in either a conception of the Western world based on you know, a vitalistic interpretation, or if you're a Christian and you believe in a spiritual reason why you know, peoples of the world believe in a certain faith or whatever, like there's obviously a root to why people believe in the greatness of a particular civilizational model. To just say like, well, you know, if smart people in our era, if, you know, it's, you know, Curtis Yarvin doesn't even go that far, by the way, which I find hilarious. Like, it's, you know, even Curtis Yarvin wouldn't say that, well, you know, the smart, beautiful people that believe in the gay pride parades. It's like, even Curtis Yarvin wouldn't even go that far. But like,
no, I mean, he's very adamant that like
you
can program those people out of it if you're in power. Like, that's his main animating thesis, and that's
which we disagree with him on for various reasons. But
I mean, there's still some truth to that. But I mean, like the question is how quickly can you stomp out resistance? And like we got someone in the comments last week saying like we haven't read his work, and I kind of find that funny because I still pay for his Gray Mirror subscription. And then like his work is so fundamentally influenced the right-wing space that there are people that like say shit all the time that I have no idea where it came from. But like, I have to chuckle at Whitworth here because like we're fortunate that leftists are the largest victims of degeneration. If Bernays and Lippmann were still around, we'd still be screwed. I hate to break it to you, but they're still around. They're dead, but no, they're still around.
They're kind of still around.
The Bernays family helped start Netflix. I hope that you all know this. Mark Randolph, one of the founders and CEO of Netflix, is a descendant of Eddie Bernays. Lippmann, I'm sorry, we just need to go to Alfred Bion. We need to go to Trist. We need to look at the Tavistock Institute. We need to take a look at you know, predictive programming within the algorithms of like Facebook and Twitter. Like, there's a reason why a bunch of neuroscientists and psychologists, evolutionary psychologists, all work in Silicon Valley. Because it is to program and gamify in order for you to be there most of your time at all times. And this is why I fast from Twitter. Like, I literally uninstall the app on my phone on the weekends. I might do it again for the Apostles Fast. I haven't decided. But like, it does illustrate that all that power is still there. It's still present. It still eats at you. And we're alive, and we have to own for it, you know?
Yeah.
And that's the case.
Yeah. And to Donald Trump gaming, I'm not equating the two, but I'm just saying, like, say you have like a cartoonishly evil, like anime racist eugenicist that, you know, hashtag meritocracy. I'm saying like they still believe in, they still believe in a model of Western civilization. Even if like you're a leftist, that like you say if you're a Marx, well, that's a bad example because if you're a Marxist, you believe in like a version of the end of history, despite what certain patriotic socialists say. I mean, like, which is another thing too, which is one good thing I must say has come out of the current iteration of the right is like maybe we should kind of not listen to the boomers entirely because, for example, when it comes to Russia, like a lot of boomers hate Russia because of like, well, I grew up hating Russia, right? It's like how my old man still hates the Japanese, not hates the Japanese, but like he's like, well, they didn't pay for it like the Germans did. It's like, I mean, you could argue that the Japanese did things, not to like relitigate World War II, but I mean, the Japanese, they did some pretty horrendous things in World War II, But the boomers, they look at like the Japanese in the 80s as their rivals. You know this, Prude, right? Like, yeah. So my old man's like, well, the Japanese, they didn't get to feel guilt over what they did. It's like,
well,
he knew veterans who were in Japanese prison camps,
only in their relationship to say the Koreans. I mean,
yeah, and the Chinese, but I mean,
yeah.
But no, but I mean, like, it's funny how the boomer nostalgia over like going against the Russians. But what I was gonna say is that like, what I think is very interesting is this revival of sort of saying, well, maybe the boomers weren't entirely wrong about anti-communism. That the right having this sort of, like, excuse me, this like third worldist, like sort of patriotic socialist communist thing is sort of like not apt, that actually anti-communism was probably by and large correct. I mean, Martin with the Lend-Lease threads and everything. Well, I mean, Prude, you know this. I mean, you're American, so you probably have more of a connection to this. But the like anti-communism. I mean, for a time, the right entertaining semi-communist ideals. I mean, listen, I still have a deference towards that way of thinking. I still think that there are certain, anti-capitalist ideas that are correct. And certainly my book on neoliberal kitsch talks about this. But I mean, like the right becoming like, I don't know, like this weird sort of communist simpery.
Yeah.
That's something that had to be beaten out of the right, I think. So, I don't know, where do you land on this, Prude? I mean, you've had some thoughts about the anti-communist thing recently. So,
I mean, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess, I mean, there's always the meme, right, about like
the virtues were
right. Marty Robbins' song, "It Ain't Right" is definitely coming.
They were kind of right, but you have to realize that the Soviet Union was still wrapped up in the sort of like global technical power.
But the infiltration of the American government by the Soviets was very real. It's documented. It played a large. I mean, I'm asking people to read Stalin's War by Sean McMeekin, because he's not even like a right winger. He's like a liberal, but he gave the most detailed. I don't know why people call it revisionist, because it isn't. It's just literally explaining things that we already knew, the things that were well documented both in Soviet and American records, that these people were Soviet agitators and spies. Like that's the case. Yeah. I mean, the Cold. I mean, do you mean like Senator Hoover, or no, not Senator Hoover? Like, was Hoover still alive at this point, or do you mean J. Edgar Hoover, the president or FBI guy? Take your pick.
I think he may be referred to J. Edgar Hoover.
Probably J. Edgar Hoover. But I mean, like, this is the political. I mean, we have a well-documented narrative and history of the Long March of the Institutions, communist agitation. I mean, we just had that.
Herbert Hoover.
Yeah, okay, Herbert Hoover. Okay, he was still alive at that time. Okay. Like, the other thing too was just like you also had the oh Lord, I just lost my train of thought on this instance. But you also had the instances in respects to this Long March to the Institutions. You've had, we've had this agitation going on, and I mean, like, at a certain point, like the cultural zeitgeist of the time was so inverted to where like academic freedom meant having communists talk.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, turns out they were kind of right. I mean, are there flaws in this narrative? Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure that there are, and it could take some dedicated time to address. And I should probably spend more time doing that than whatnot. Herbert Hoover lived until 1964. I'll be darned.
Wow.
I did not know that.
I didn't know that.
I did not know that. But yeah, I mean, like, and then plus you have the connection to Lenin from certain individuals in Wall Street in Germany. Like, there's a lot of this stuff happens, and then at the same time, there was sort of a socialist movement here in the United States. Like, you can't discount the Red Scare of the 1920s, where there were bombings that were happening, which kind of helped animate the creation of the FBI to begin with. And then secondly, Eugene Debs was a candidate for president that's received 10% of the national vote when he was running for president. So, I mean, like, there's a lot of stuff in there that illustrates that there are homegrown elements, but also a lot of foreign interests. And then the third world, ism that we see out of like Russia and China today, like that stuff is old.
Yeah.
It does not, this goes back to that idea of this utopianist, millenarian kind of like workers of the world unite bullshit. And that's been around for a long time. And so like, I'm always like skeptical. Like when I hear that song about which side are you on, about like the coal guys and the unions, I'm like, I don't know how much I want to believe that at first glance, like there's so much of our history that we don't have a word for, or we don't have a full grip on. So like, I'm just, like communism is,
You know what's funny?
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, I know. I was out there. I was about to read chat and then I misread the comments. So you're good. Go on.
No, it was funny that recently Howling Mutant, Speaver, good friend Howling Mutant again, he was quoting that Satan account on Twitter. And it was like this like sidewalk chalk where it's like be gay, do crimes, and it had like all the symbols of the leftoids. Like it had but in the middle they had the triple arrows, right? The Antifa symbol.
Oh yes.
And Howling Mutant was like, this is like these communists, right? But then these like leftoids, these socialists, they're like, you realize the triple arrows are against the communists, right? And I'm like, well, you have to realize that intellectually, yes, okay, you could say that there's a huge difference between socialist theories and communist theories. They don't operate in the same way. But I'm saying when it comes to like actual material, like real world politics from like 1920s Germany to like here in North America and in Europe, has there ever been a case where quote unquote socialists and anti-fascists have been against communism when it comes to the triple arrows? Because the triple arrows are against
no,
never.
That's an intrinsically anti-fascist symbol. No one on the right has ever used 3 arrows to say that they're against communists. No one makes these long blog posting screeds about why the left are awful, and they'll take pictures of communist tweets, and right wingers will do 3 arrows. No one does that. That is
from the leftist perspective, have they ever really cared about the communists?
No.
Like
they make these gay little kayfabe sort of distinctions between the two.
But it's all kayfabe. You're right, exactly. It's like because the real enemy are the far right, the fascists, and the crown, which is monarchism, but that's also to represent organized religion. That's what the international left hates. They hate the right wing and they hate religion. They don't really give a shit about communism. Like it's a distinction in terms of like the theory. That's all kayfabe, but you could say that socialists aren't exactly communists. But when it comes to real world practice, do they care about communism? Like, so Howling Mutant called them out. And it was like these leftists that talk about, well, we hate communism too. Like, give me a fucking break.
You don't.
Like,
no, you don't.
No, you don't. No. It's like
end of discussion. No,
Antifa, they go after the chuds. They go after the right wing. They really don't care about the communists. Like that's like, oh, maybe they care about Haas, but they think that Haas is like is a fascist in like, garb and communist garb. He's like a Nazball, right? Like, so, the Nazball, they really hate the nationalist part of that equation. They don't hate
they sure do.
Part of that equation.
Anything that can eventually lead to the abolition of the nation, they'll get to that direction. Right. And I mean,
exactly. Well, they think the nation state as it is in sort of like even Westphalian nation state concept is fascism. That's how far removed from reality these people are. So
they literally have said that in the past. I mean, like I've seen just tanky tweets saying like the Treaty of Westphalia was proto-fascism.
Yeah. Like literally having borders.
Can't save them. Can't be saved. They're too far gone. Can't save them.
Your normie grandma that thinks that we should lower immigration because like the nation has borders still. She's she believes in the Austrian painter, apparently.
Yeah.
So it's,
your grandma who had family that died in the war, she's secretly a fascist. Like,
exactly.
Jeez. Yeah. Lord have mercy.
Well, my grandfather was a mechanic in the Italian Air Force.
Oh, well, your grandfather probably had different opinions than mine.
What's funny is that my grandfather, he went from supporting Benny to being a communist for a little bit, but then he came to America and then because my great-great-grandfather was a communist, but then I also had people that supported the other regime. So I have a very weird mix of political history in my family. So yeah, but then my grandfather came to North America because my family was already here. So it's like, yeah, it didn't even matter at the end of the day. But,
no, I mean, it really didn't. And that's
yeah.
we should really do more face cam stuff anyways, because the viewership has doubled.
Wow.
Hello, people. Well done.
And we're going against Oren and AA and
Oren,
Sargon.
Oren, Sargon, Semiagog, the Longhouse game.
Oh, Semiagog, yeah.
We're doing great. Yeah, Paul Gottfried's book kind of I'll answer that super chat later. But yes, Paul Gottfried's book, Fascism and Anti-Fascism, of course, for Crusade, give you actually some really well-rounded definitions for what fascism is.
Paul Gottfried gets to say.
Yeah, he gets to say. And it's still funny because he'll do speeches about certain lobbies and he'll still get called a fascist. But
does he even it's funny? Has he ever replied to a heckler calling him a fascist in a speech, or he has?
I don't think so.
Yeah, that'd be funny.
I haven't seen him. Oh, it's tomorrow. Oh, okay, cool.
Oh, can you imagine him replying to a heckler?
We'd be screwed.
He's like, "What are you talking about? Fascism? I mean, it's just ridiculous. Calling me it's ridiculous. Like I could imagine him like the New York, is he from New York, right? Or no,
where was he born?
Where's he
from? Find out real quick.
Yeah,
he's got a Wikipedia page that'll give me his early life section.
City, the real Chad.
Born in Bronx. Why am I even bothering?
He's got that New York accent though. He's got when he was talking to Alex, he came out.
Born in the Bronx, New York City.
Oh boy.
Not Brooklyn though. Not Brooklyn. He's a different kind.
He's got a Bronx accent a little bit. You can hear
different type of Jewish intellectual. He wasn't born in Brooklyn. He was born in the Bronx.
Oh man.
Makes all the sense. Makes all the more
Look
sense.
At Cindy. Real Chads watch Digital Archipelago Live. Real Chuds watch Digital Archipelago Live.
That's so true. That way, when your kids do their Chud Jack promposals, you can thank us.
Oh, there you go.
For watching it live.
Can you imagine if there's probably couples that watch us together? That's a scary thought right there.
You're way optimistic about the likelihood of our audience being with women.
Oh my god. No, I've had someone say that to me. That's like, yeah, I watch you with my wife. I go, oh my god, thanks for telling. No, he's a great
based
dude.
Wife. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That or your wife has a lot of patience.
Well, I found out my friend Wired on Twitter has a GF. That was kind of crazy. I thought that he would be like, Momo and
attending the Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry.
Piffinard, internet friend. I love all my anime mutuals. So fucking fakes, exactly. Donald Trump Gaming. So fake cells in the chat.
Don't care.
What are you gonna do?
Don't
fake
care.
cells in the chat.
What are you gonna do?
But
what are you gonna do?
Anyways, I just end that rant. I just think it is kind of funny though. That a Silicon Valley person has a rootless view of America not even worth saving or defending. Because I think that America, I mean, I'm not American, but I mean, I think that both Canada and America, at least on a spiritual level, have sort of a spirit that can be defended and should be cultivated. And I think that to say that just American dominance as a baseless expression of power itself is wouldn't be worth saving if America becomes a shell and its people become destitute in their own land, and everything becomes fake, everything becomes gay, everything becomes a hell world, piss earth. So yeah. I mean, oh my god, I exposed my wife to DA. She said you were cute, Jew. I banished her to the basement for some.
Lord Almighty,
that's terrible.
That's
terrible. My God, son.
That's funny though.
Oh, that's funny.
But it does illustrate sort of like at the end of the day, a lot of, I don't know what's the word I'm looking for. It's just I have to chuckle at all of this, right? Because well, the Silicon Valley thing is always interesting because they have that deeply rooted techno optimism about them. But it always runs into that cultural bit. And you don't escape where you're born, and you don't escape where you come from, and you don't escape the culture that you're socialized in. And it sucks for me in that respect, right? Total incel rebellion. I voted straight ticket Republican in 2016, and that was
you didn't vote for Hillary?
And I got the records to prove it because I took a picture of my ballot. But anyways, the thing that always finds it interesting is like the discourse you see between like red state conservatives and blue state conservatives. And I think Dave has the most interesting synthesis of this, where you want blue state eyes but a red state heart.
Yeah.
Where and I agree with that wholeheartedly, because like Dave
you have to value
offers,
the chuds.
Well, yeah, you have to value the people like me that live in flyover country to some extent, but you also need to have that sort of concise sort of political skepticism or doomerism that comes with living in a blue state. Like, I can't imagine what it's like living in like Albany or Hudson or Buffalo or whatever, and being like, yeah, like I'm owned by New York City, or or someone who lives in Travis County, even though you don't live in Austin, and you're like, well,
you live in Nassau County, you're owned by New York City.
Yeah, right. So, like you're owned by these.
You're owned by Manhattan.
You're owned by Manhattan. You're owned by the island or whatever. Yeah. And like, so like, yeah, they kind of require a skeptical, pessimistic viewpoint, which I think is more realism than anything else. And so, yeah, like I just don't. It's always difficult when you try to reconcile the two, because like I can read stuff out of like Palladium Mag or read Curtis Yarvin, and I'm like, I get it, but like, how does that transliterate over here, unless we really do want like a totally decentralized state? And then again, like that leads open to all kinds of discussions about what the future holds, because I do think that you're going to have a more local solution, because and I'll plug the US event here, which is later this month on the weekend of the 23rd through the 25th. The whole theme about that stuff is about forging a common foundation. And I feel like you got the answer about whether or not all these differing factions can be quote unquote united 5 or so years ago. But I think it does sort of raise the interesting question of like, well, if things are going to be decentralized, can we agree on certain baseline parameters? And I think that you can. And I think that's where you sort of see this this stuff all over the place. But yeah, I know. So to be wise as a serpent and harmless as a dove, where have I heard that? I know, right? But yeah, these are just the interesting things that come to my mind. And I'll be talking a little bit about that in my speech.
Well, there was this criticism that came from that came from a poster whose opinion I greatly respect, and I think is truly one of the best posters, Contrary Pancake. He had this mini thread about how the real world political implications of what we're facing is different than religion and / morality. That politics are fundamentally different, and that you may have a moral opinion, but in terms of realpolitik, that moral opinion won't exactly translate into real world policy, which is a very tough struggle if you are someone of faith. But I can't help but think that that's a correct interpretation of the unique times that we're living in, that you make the mistake of equating morality and politics, which I believe was, yeah. So what do you think of that, Prude? I mean, I hate to say it, but a lot of Christians have this like fantasy of their own like integralist.
But it won't happen.
I
mean, like I'm incredibly realistic about it. Like, and I share a similar opinion to my my friend Andre, who happens to run the not Myth of the 20th Century, but his is Repeal the 20th Century. You can find him on Twitter at Repeal the 20th Century. And he and I are ironically, he goes to my church, which is really funny because like he moved and we both go to the same parish, and he's like, oh yeah, I run this podcast or whatever. And I was like, yeah. And someone else asked him, oh, like, what's the podcast called? Oh, Repeal the 20th Century. He's like, I know you, because I don't let my online life interfere with my church life. Like, I don't want, heaven forbid I ever get doxxed or whatever. Like, I don't want people marching to my parish giving like my priest or my like parishioner shit. Like, that's why I keep it divided. But I was like, I know you, and it was cool to meet someone IRL like that. And so like he and I have a very similar opinion where it's like, yeah, where we live and in like the Texas area, like, yeah, it's nice that like the faith is growing, and we're very thankful and blessed about that. But I also know that like America is still very in its core a uniquely waspy country, and that I don't want them to be like erased from the earth. Like, I'm not an advocate for like the complete destruction of a culture or a people, and I'm not going to stand idly by while the institutions that allow me to live and allow me to not deal with the hordes knocking at my door to be destroyed. And so I'm interested in that. But I mean, at the same time,
exactly,
every Christian should be mindful that, for you, this is the penultimate age. We don't know at any time when Christ could return, because as the Psalms will tell you, what might be 1,000 years to us may be like a night watch to the Lord. And that we don't we should be mindful at all times. And so, I mean, if you want to have if you want some base Christian world to happen, I would remind and look back to what others Christians have said in times of far more totalitarianism, both in the West, East, the Orientals, inside the Middle East with Islam, that you're going to have to live and act like it. And signing up for that kind of demand is, last I checked, pretty supernatural. I mean, Christ literally tells someone, let the dead bury their own dead when he wants to be a disciple. Because he's like, well, let me go bury my dad first. I'm like, no, none of that shit. So, like, I think it's important for any sort of Christian to realize that, like, yes, there is still a fundamentally Christian soul in this country. It may not be your preferred
iteration of Christianity.
You know, it may not be your preferred iteration. It may not be your preferred, perfect soteriological, ecclesiological answer to all things. But to me, and again, I don't mean this to sound ecumenical or anything. There's reasons that I'm not going to ever compromise on doctrine or faith. But I mean, when people get persecuted, or when people are getting like their shit pushed in because they believe Jesus Christ is the Son of God and came down and died for our sins, then like, yeah, I think that I'm gonna try and defend those people, because those people are the ones that normally do more good in this world, at least in the United States, than others. And so I think it's really important for people to recognize that, like, if you are a Christian and you do practice it and you're not just LARPing on Twitter, then you've really got to like recognize what you signed up for, because it is a supernatural ask. And there's our friend Garfield, or at certain lasagna, who used to go by Egg Report on he's Egg Report on Substack. I love him to death. He wrote Randy, thank you. Randy wrote a great post. It's like a year or two old now, but he was just like, Christianity scares the absolute crap out of me. And I'm censoring myself a little bit, but he's just like, look at the fundamental transformation of like Sandra and Paul, martyr, like killing of Christians, to being like one of the most well-known apostles and saints in the church. It's like, that's a terrifying thing to believe that man was so fundamentally transformed.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, that's a tall order. That's a tall order.
Well, because you look at like sort of like failure of ourselves. Like, could we do that? Very hard,
No, I mean, that's the case. And I mean, I think that's the case. That it has to be to look at, and it's a tall order, and it's a supernatural one, and we can only do it because of him and through him. And so when we talk about like, oh, base world this or base world that, like, we have to be very realistic about what are we doing with our fellow man? Are we actually in church? Are we concerned with our own soul? And are we caring for those around us? And I'm not saying don't participate in politics. What I am saying is that, you're going to get slandered. Christ says this in the Beatitudes, prepare for it. They will say false and evil shit against you for his sake. If you were made for the world would have loved you. But at the end of the day, I think what matters above all things in this respect is that if you are going to wear your faith openly, and you should be, because whoever denies Christ before men will deny you before his Father. All these things at the end of the day have to reiterate that if you're going to live it, this is what's going to come. It's a tall order to sign up for. And that, as I'm rambling here, but I think that it's important to be realistic about what's to happen, because this battle is not over, hasn't ended yet. And we are, I think it's in 2 Timothy, like, we are militant. We are soldiers in Christ Jesus. And you have to be willing to fight that and finish your race till the very end. And that's a tall order.
Yeah.
So we have to be realistic and not lose ourselves to fantasies or spiritual deception. And I'll shut up there, because I don't know what else to say.
Or even like, gloating over other denominations failing to live up to their principles. Like, that's another thing too. Like, it's very, I mean, let's face it, it's incredibly easy if you're an Orthodox person to like look at the Catholic Church right now and see what's happening. It's incredibly easy to be an Orthodox and a Catholic and look at the Protestants in America and see what's happening. But I feel like there are good people in those denominations to like gloat over their failure is sort of like not very apt, even Mormons, right? Like, I remember I had this exchange once with Benedict, and it really brought home like seeing the planks. Like, the difference I feel is that even someone like Paxtu would talk about this, and hopefully one day I will get to talk to him. The Catholic Church, to say that there's problems is such a severe and egregious understatement. The type of problems the Catholic Church is facing right now, I do believe that there are, maybe I'm just schizo posting right now, but I think that there are otherworldly forces trying to subvert my church. And I feel that the leadership in the Catholic Church, without saying too much, without verging into a seedy territory, I think has severely failed the laity, and the failures of biblical proportions, and the cost that good Catholics are bearing right now is egregious. So I feel that you shouldn't deny it, though. You shouldn't deny like, just as the Orthodox have had to look into themselves when it came to communism, I think us Catholics have to look into ourselves when it comes to the particular type of evil that has subverted the Catholic Church. And some of the accounts, if you were to believe even a portion of them, I think is well, certain things I can't say on YouTube, put it that way.
Yeah.
But as a Catholic myself, it is incredibly disheartening. And it's like there are certain, like, if you go to Popehead on Twitter, a good mutual or a good friend Popehead,
Oh yeah,
look up the books he's referencing from legitimate scholars. Look up the things that even Pope Benedict, God rest his soul, before he died. It's there's going to take a level of heavenly guidance and heroism to overcome the rot in the Catholic Church. But I do believe, hopefully, God willing, it will be overcome, and the evil people that have subverted the Catholic Church will be overcome eventually. And it may take generations, it may take 1,000 years, but I mean, hey, I mean, even the Orthodox Church, like, to their, like, I mean, I think if you look at the brothers in the Orthodox Church, that's a pretty good example of how, in a relatively short amount of time, they've managed to overcome the scourge that was communism.
Not to say that they don't
church.
have their own problems. Lord knows
Yeah.
that they do. But
God, yeah.
not a single church or denomination hasn't been afflicted.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Protestants, we like to laugh at them, but I mean, hey, there's a lot of. Someone said in the chat that I'd rather be ruled by the WASP Protestant than the GAE, and hey, that's
I mean,
truth.
that's the truth. I'm
You
exactly at that position.
I would rather be ruled over by Jerry Farwell and Pat Robertson and even Billy Graham. Than, I'd rather be ruled.
You guys are talking over each other. I'm sorry. Are you new here?
Are we talking over each other?
I don't think we are. We interrupt and sometimes, but
yeah.
no, I think we do fine. But also, are you new here? We kind of talk over each other every now and then.
That'd be pretty base to be ruled over by Pat Robertson was the king of America. He's dead now, right?
Yeah, I think he just died. Like, he was 93. Yeah. I think he just died. But like, seriously, I would happily live under, like, I think it was him and Jerry Falwell that were just like, if God doesn't do something to America, then he owes Sodom and Gomorrah an apology. And I'm like, yes. You got to realize the anti-Satanists, like 1980s moral majority, the satanic, they were all correct. Those evangelicals, they were 100% correct about everything. Right. They were just right
across the board.
Yes, Rachel, we did spend the first, like, 35, 40 minutes talking about aliens and mixed it with all sorts. Yeah, we spent almost an hour on aliens. We did pretty good. We had our main topic at the beginning for almost an hour.
Yeah. No, but all those evangelicals, they were like 100% correct about everything, in my opinion. Even like to what they would predict would happen, they were correct.
Imagine. Oh, man can dream. The
Billy Graham Crusades. Did you? You probably had a relative or two that probably went to those crusade meetings.
Yeah, I do. Living relatives that did. Yeah.
There's something so, like, uniquely American about the Billy Graham crusade thing in the 1980s.
And I mean, and it's so instilled in this, like, in our culture. Like, there are a lot of Pentecostals that I know, and one of them was just like, Glory Crusade, like Pat Robertson, Glory Crusade. Like, we're gonna let the Spirit flow through people, and I'm like, yep. There you go, girl.
With the fist, the fist on the table. Yeah. I would listen, if you could reincarnate Billy Graham and let him be the king of America, I would move to America.
You'd be America would be in a much better place.
Oh boy.
Let's not kid ourselves.
Right. Someone said if Ryan Turnipseed became the dictator of America, that would be
as long as he leaves the churches alone that aren't the Lutherans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, if America had a Protestant ruler, that would be
Yeah.
Be pretty
I mean,
based.
it'd be a lot better than what we got.
And as long as he left his Catholics and Orthos alone, I mean,
Yeah, just leave us alone. I
yeah.
think we'd be okay with it.
I mean, a Protestant dictator of America would probably have to make alliances with the Ellis Islanders. So I mean,
Yeah,
it's gonna happen.
That's true. Divine right of Billy Graham.
Billy Graham. That's like, those Protestant posting that Cal Crucis does on Twitter.
Yeah,
I love that. Oh man, that's great. You know what's funny is he like posts Bert that. Oh, he's so terrible. He's such a midwit. That Bert Ehrlich guy, Bert Ehrman, the Christ wasn't a real guy.
Oh yeah.
He like posts the text dialogue with him. He's like, go follow Cal. He was on Content Minded. Go follow Cal Crucis on Twitter. He's like one of the best posters ever. But I love when he does the Protestant posting. I did the one where it was like Giga Chad with a vest, with the bomb vest, and Ernest Angley's like, "Now, son, you know what to do. Jet fuel isn't cheap." He goes, "I will, Ernest." Bart Ehrman. That's the
Bart
guy.
Ehrman. Yeah, that's the guy.
Yeah. Ernest Angley with his jet fuel isn't cheap. So
yeah, tithe now. Jet fuel isn't cheap. Imagine doing that at the State of the Union address, but you're doing it for like the defense budget.
Oh boy. Oh god.
Look, F-20, F-35 Joint Strike Fighter fuel. It's not cheap. You need to give more. Just something like that. It'd be so good. It'd be so good.
I heard they're building another pipeline in Eastern Europe. We got to give more. We
got to give more. We got to give deep.
Semtex isn't cheap.
Semtex isn't cheap. Listen, we're fulfilling the prophecy. That's why we got our Stuxnet. We're stopping the. It'd be great. It'd be great. But that's not the culture I live in. So that's okay. I guess the last thing really would be just I've been checking back and forth on Twitter because everyone and their mother has turned Tucker Carlson stuff into a meme. And it's been great. What
did you think of his video?
Well, like I said earlier, the only thing that really sort of chapped my hide was the aliens focus. I don't know. For me, it's intrinsically easier for me to question like 9/11 narratives than it is aliens. Just because we never got the full truth on either of those, but one of those is more recent in memory. So I guess that's the case. Yeah, we talked over that vexed. We did. But yeah, to me it was good. I mean, it was his first episode. I mean, I think everyone's excited that he's back. Everyone's excited that he's doing X, Y, and Z. I don't think that. I mean, we should criticize him when he does go bad or go wrong. I mean, like I don't simp for him, but I mean, like like if it was a good answer, this is the way to go about it, and I think that it's a good start. It's a good start.
Yeah, I think it's a good start.
We'll see when the other episodes come, and if they go a little off, I don't want to say the reservation, but if they go off a little bit, then we need to keep that in mind.
I love how people in the chat are posting Total Wasp. You know what? Post post BWC in the chat right now. BWC in the chat.
Maybe one day we'll be able to tell Nightmare Vision what that stands for.
Oh boy. No, it was Amy Therese that didn't know what BWC standed for.
That kills me.
That was hilarious. BWC. Look in the chat. They're doing it. BWC in the chat.
Look at that.
Oh boy. Oh my god. But
you were right. You know what, Gio? We don't need a Twitter space called Day Pigeons. We have it. It's this show.
Yeah, this is Twitter. This is what BTR was meant to be. I feel like Twitter on YouTube.
Except without a cajillion guests at the same time.
Oh boy. Does Ayla know what that means? Well, probably.
Probably. She's, people have paid for it. So.
BBW, I stand with you. Oh, thank you, Cody Browning. Thank you. Why are we posting Gio's most frequent search term, BWC? You know what's funny? Because in the prawn sites, if you do search BWC, like it'll be like, not that I know from experience, but like it'll be like it.
Are you sure?
Interracial the other way. If you post BWC instead of. It's like you'll find some Asian or black. Never mind. Anyways, God, don't do that. Don't go to another tab and type in
the do not research is
do not
Geo
research.
would say.
Yeah.
Do not research. Do not research.
Do not research. But anyways, BWC. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, the Tucker thing was interesting because already like they were like God, I can't, like, the chat is rightfully so. I really put my foot in my mouth over there. All right.
Self-report. Yep. Self-report.
Listen, I this is like pure research purposes. I don't really asking for a friend. Exactly. Exactly, Jake Lloyd, info hazard. Big wonderful Christian. That's what BWC means. Big wonderful Christian. It's the Tucker Carlson thing. Did you see the ADL already went after him for the talking about a certain foreign leader
talking
of a
about
country.
Talking about Zelensky.
Yeah, Z-Man.
Chef's kiss.
That was amazing. I knew
rat-faced,
yeah,
money-grubbing persecutor of Christians and corrupt.
That's kind of
I love how any certain specified insult automatically triggers the ADL.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Why is that? Like,
why is that? Yeah, let's do the Tucker. Why is that? Well, we asked.
Why is the ADL triggered over me? Like, it's,
Why is that? I don't have his laugh, but it's so true. Only Dutton can pull off, and it wasn't even just it was anime prawn that he was. Yeah. That man is just the purest definition of autism. He's the only man who can get away with it.
He pulled a Kurt Eichenwald about, like, I was showing my son for research purposes. So, you know what's funny? Ed Dutton's the only guy I could believe that says I'm just doing it for research. He actually probably is just doing it for research.
Yeah, he's the only guy. He
doesn't get turned on by anime, by hentai or whatever. So
he's the only man that can put on fake breasts and then, like, not me think he's a creep or anything.
Yeah, he's not like it's not.
Oh
like
yeah, they also said
Crowder
that the certain Austrian regime reference in Ukraine,
certain regimes in the
must be understood in context.
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
It's just like, it's just like a youth club. They don't really mean it. They're not real, Austrian paint. It's like, it's funny because I remember the first month of the war. That's what Lev said to me. He's like, they're not real. Like,
yeah, they're not real. What's
Austrian painter fans? They're not using the real Hindu.
They're not part of the NSDAP. They're not real ones.
They're not really from, like, the Galicia,
Yeah.
brigade.
They don't have any sort of strange obsession with Bandera. Of course not, That
was so surreal.
They're not doing like weird rituals to Swarog and all those other sort of gods and shit. Like, no, they're totally wholesome heckin' defenders of my multicultural liberal democracy. Yeah, just pressing X'd out, buddy.
This is the essence of Gladio nationalism. Like,
it's got to be understood in context. Oh boy, I better remind myself that as I get escorted out of certain museums and shit.
Oh boy, it's just a black metal thing. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, they just really like Judas Priest guys. They're really big into Pantera.
They're really big into Carrick and Angren and Bursum and there's a few ones that were pegged black metal bands with being, what's funny is that the Antifa people, they tried to create their own black metal and it was hilarious. So, like, they're trying to subvert something that by definition can't be subverted. But apparently Common Filth is back. He's on BitChute and Odyssey, and he's
apparently Zante got banned from Twitter.
Really?
Yeah.
How?
He got, according to Luck, he says that Zante was suspended for going after tweets by certain pederasts.
Oh, boy.
So, yeah. Oh, never mind.
Is he back?
Oh, boy. No. I just saw the tweet that got him, and it's him quote tweeting someone else who's a mutual of mine. Oh, shit.
Oh, you send that to me in private after.
Yeah.
Is Mytho American also banned, or is just
no? I think it's just Identic Jesus. Is Mytho America still here? Yeah, Mytho America's still on there.
Okay, good.
Yeah, he's still on there, but because he's quote tweeting. Oh, it's right wing infighting, but everyone hates that one person they're quote tweeting. So
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
Scrum Monkey got banned too?
Really? Shit.
Wow. What did he get banned for?
I don't know. That's this has been a wild live.
Yeah, something happened on Twitter and Gio isn't aware of it.
I know, it's weird when it happens.
Man. It is weird when people get banned nowadays. I wonder what Scrum. I mean, Prude, you could probably ask around for me to see how he got banned, but
yeah. But
maybe it was something to do with didn't he like always used to have a war with Short Fat Otaku?
Yeah, I think they still do that. I mean, I don't follow Scrump, but I imagine that they do. Now, I think that it wasn't for going after censoring pederasts. It was right-wing infighting. Never mind. Okay.
Oh boy.
Never mind. Right-wing infighting. Yes.
Oh yes, I saw what happened. Yeah.
I don't want to comment on that other than the fact
don't look at his account now.
Don't look at his account, and for all intents and purposes, just pray for that man's soul. Because
pray, block that. Yeah. That's it.
That's all you can really do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyways,
that's it. That's all you can really do.
Yeah, I'm not current on like what happened today. I was pretty busy today, so I didn't see what happened with that Twitter drama. But we'll see what happens. I retweeted that from Zante. Oh my god. Subject to change. Who was in the well, me and Prude will discuss it after the stream. We don't want to give any platform to drama. But
change. Block the account that Spasticus has on there, and I think they've deleted them. Praise God, but yeah,
change the handle to an explicit prawn of a certain variety account. So yeah. But yeah, I don't know why Scrump would get banned. Scrump's been around for a while with his accounts.
He's had a few accounts banned and gone through, and I think he still does fight with SFO, which I kind of I don't blame him. I mean, if there's a lol cow that you want to have fun with, I guess it'd be him.
Yeah, they had some business thing together, but then Shurfat Otaku denounced him for being like what a far right person. Yeah.
No more dumping with Scrumps.
Oh boy. Geo doesn't want a platform draw. Shut up! Like I'm trying my best. Okay, to not. I mean, behind the scenes, I can't get. I'm addicted to it. It's a very guilty pleasure.
I told you who it was on Telegram. Geo.
Okay,
you can check there. But yeah, I mean, it's just again, like I said in my last video, which you should watch. It's also on this channel. The spirit of the age.
Holy shit!
Yeah, I know. So like I said, the Twitter's a drug.
Unsurprising though.
Unsurprising because they hate each other. But yeah, it really does tell you. It's separate from the other accounts, says Hunter. Sorry, this is what happens when we're going back and forth on stuff. But
no, we're talking about this other one, but don't worry about it because that guy don't give it any air.
I'm not. It's infighting shit. I'm not going to give it too much attention.
Yeah.
But
but plus the other account that Mr. D was
praying about and worried about. If you saw that, block and get over it. Until then, yeah, I know, Whitworth, I agree. But at the end of the day, I think that the thing that comes to mind is that this is a drug. This place is both a platform and a drug. I call it digital ayahuasca for a reason. You have to take it. You can be on it. You can talk about it. But at the end of the day, you are going to be exposed to untold amounts of psychological damage and exposed to entities beyond your comprehension. So those are things that I would keep in mind when you're on this place. It's like real psychedelics. Maybe, if you're going to do it, then be very concerned about your health and what you run into.
Yeah.
But yeah, praying for people on Twitter, just like praying for drug addicts on the subway. Yeah, I mean, I do.
Mm-hmm.
If I see a homeless guy, I pray for him. If I've got a water bottle in my car, I'll give it to him. That's the stuff that you got to consider. Be happy that you don't. Be happy that you don't. Honest to God, if I were not the Prudentialist, I would not be on Twitter as a regular human being. Just wouldn't.
Brian Danielson, don't go on Twitter. I hope you do. I don't know. Brian, I hope you do well if this is the real Brian Danielson, I hope you do well in your match against Okada in Toronto, which I mean, I don't know. I thought about going to the AEW thing, but I'm like, I don't want to sit through Cole. And it's been a long time since I've been to the ACC. So, but Brian Danielson, I hope you do well against your match with Okada. So, that'll be a good match.
Best of luck if you're fighting.
Can you imagine if that was actually the real Bryan Danielson? That would be, and he's like using an alt, but he's like, nobody would believe it's the real Bryan Danielson. So that'd be pretty
be
funny. Oh boy, because it's fun.
Twitter Addicts Anonymous.
Twitter Addicts Anonymous.
It's just the same 20 people.
Yeah, that's true.
It's just the same 20 people.
Oh, it's funny. I saw Kat tweeting about trad thoughts. That's pretty funny. It's such an old term, trad thought. It's back from the Thermidor magazine days.
Oh boy.
So, yeah. But anyways, tonight I'm on Patrick Casey with Nightmare Vision, and wait,
you just kind of got quiet there.
Oh no, I was reading something in the chat.
Oh,
who are you talking about? Me or Prudentialist?
She's talking about me because, she had said that I have to give up the Judeo-Christian God in order to save my race. You were a paid... okay. I'm sorry. I can unblock you if you'd like, but I'm pretty quick to attract... When people post stuff like that, it's easy bait for me to block. And
I just tend to ignore it, to tell you the truth. If they're following me, I don't know. I mean, maybe that's just my inherent agreeableness, but...
I just don't bother because it happens time and time again.
The only people I really block are like people that explicitly like go after me, or I don't know. I have a pretty big block list because I block every doggo of a certain variety. I block every Antifa account. I block every like weirdo degenerate you have to pretty much block. But anyways, no, I was gonna say, like, what was I saying before about the trad thought thing? Oh yeah, it comes with
the Thermidor term.
Yeah, way back in the day, Collie wrote an article. She wrote an article about it was called "Against the Trad Thoughts," which you could probably find in the archive. But it was a pretty quality article. Collie, I don't know if she kind of left the internet, but she basically predicted what was going to happen with the trad thoughts. So, and this was back in like 2016.
I feel like that was inevitable, that it would just be like pornographically done the way that it is.
Yeah. So, I got no problem with pagans. I don't really block pagans. I mean, there are some that like explicitly make their whole brand about going against Christians, but like, no, I'm pretty cool. I'm pretty cool with.
I patron plenty of them, including Mike from Imperium Press and Charles and Dave Martell. So I don't have a problem with it. It's just easy shit like that. If I didn't know who you were, like it's just easy that I'm not going to bother and not deal with it. Sorry. Anyways, not to go on about it, but
anyways, last order of business. What was I going to say? Yeah, tonight on Patrick Case. Yeah, yesterday released the Joshua Lakesh interview on Content Minded. Please go and listen to it. It's a good one. And next week I will either have a solo one or I have a pretty good Alexander Adams one that I probably want to do promotion on. But I mean, next week we're pretty busy now. I'm still in the process of writing my book. So I might take a mulligan next week and come back with the Alexander Adams one. So, because we're both unconscious car call, and I think American Populist wants me to do something on Monday with Settlers Lament. So we'll see.
He's going to have Lament on. Well, that'll be interesting.
Yeah, he wanted us both on, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, well, I'll be on Hitman's channel tomorrow, and I'll post that both on Twitter, YouTube, and Telegram. I already have, but we'll be talking about the history and legacy of the Sykes-Picot Agreement. So that'll be a good time tomorrow. I'll also be hopefully posting another short article on Substack as well, not just fiction, but we'll go back to political writing pretty soon. And then I will hopefully have my review up for Millennium by Marty Phillips up next week. But it'll probably be available behind the paywall. Then I might do a review on it and have him on the channel. I quite enjoyed the book. I would recommend that you get it if you get the chance. By all means, buy that book if you get the opportunity.
Yeah.
Oh, your country is smoking us out, dude. Well, don't mean to. I can't help you there. None of us can. The only thing I've noticed was everyone going on the meteorological maps and going out of their way to what's the word I'm looking for? Notice that the fires were all conveniently starting at the same time.
Really, eh?
Yeah.
Boy.
Raises some interesting questions.
It does. I mean, I can't speculate. We'll never know truly, but it does. Even normies are talking about this in Canada.
I mean, and it's not. And someone asked, "Is this the same one as the women started?" No, this was all over. This is all in Quebec, right?
Quebec and Alberta.
Quebec and Alberta. I don't know what provinces or how you guys divvy it up, but I mean, all right on top of the eastern seaboard, and they all kind of conveniently just started up at once.
And this time of year, the wind flow channels down to the New York area, so they got hammered pretty good. But yeah, Geopalavra, Mad Max. Ideally Mad Max, but I mean, in a few years I might have to hold my nose and vote for Palavra. I mean, I don't want to. Palavra isn't the best. He isn't, put it this way, he is in Based World, but I think like the problem with Mad Max is that he's proven that he can't drum up enough of a coalition to overtake the Conservatives. I mean, Preston Manning did better than Mad Max, unfortunately, back in the 90s. But the Mounties finally found Geo's marijuana stuff. Oh, God. It's all over, boys. That's why I had to light it up, like Trailer Park Boys, where they had the they caused a forest fire. Yeah, but anti-francophone actions by the Canadian authority. Oh no! The Laurentians burning up and
trying to smoke out the frogs in Quebec.
Smoking up the frogs. That's why they had to set fire to the Laurentians. Oh boy! Oh no!
Oh boy! I mean, that's just it's a disaster. But yeah, shall we get to the supers?
BWC 2040. Put that in the chat. BWC 2049.
Where is that? Oh, and you're asking people to put it in the chat. Okay.
Yeah, but no, because internet friends said BR like Blade Runner 2049. But I'm like, what about BWC 2049? Have you ever thought about that? BWC 2049. Oh boy, that's terrible. I should never say BWC ever again.
That might be on Night Owls. You could probably make that happen.
I could, yeah.
There you go.
I'm going to tell Nightmare Vision that tonight when I talk to Pat.
Oh yeah, because you're on air with him later.
I'm on with yeah, it's Restoring Order with me and Nightmare Vision again. So BWC 2049. It's going to be on Night Owls, and Amy Teresa is going to love it. So there you go. I shouldn't insult Amy Teresa that way, but like it's funny because she like didn't know what BWC meant. She's like, "What's BWC?" Like I can't do an Australian accent very good, but
no, I've never heard her voice, so all the more better for me.
You've never heard Amy Teresa's voice?
Nope.
No?
Let's keep it that
way. Go and listen to the Logo versus Amy Teresa when I'm on BTR.
Oh boy.
It was pretty cool. It was pretty funny. No, have I spoken to Night Owls? I think once a long time ago, but I'm kind of annoyed because a lot of people that come on Night Owls will start dropping N-bombs, and I'm like, oh man, I don't know, I'm kind of paranoid, you know.
They don't record those, thank God. Doesn't stop anyone from being able to record it. But yeah, I've listened to them a few times when I'm finally like not doing anything, and I'm like, I feel bad because I've been missing out all this time. I'm like, this is really entertaining for like internet racists.
She has Twitter. BWC big white cans. You know, Amy's half Lebanese, right? Like, she's open to the fact she's half Lebanese. So that's pretty close to. Is that close to white prude?
Kind of.
Sure. Whatever.
It's in proximity to the cops, which are Caucasian.
Yeah. No, Amy is a real. What are you talking? Amy's a real woman. I know for a fact. Big white cans. That's pretty cool. I should use that.
Good Lord.
Big white cans.
So off to the super chats then.
All right, off to the super chats.
Let's
go.
I'm going to go put myself in the cam off position for a little bit here because my eyes are killing me.
Yeah.
Feel free to join me, Gio. If not, I understand. All right, I'm going to start with we'll start with entropy so I can go take care of these. Okay, so Owen Zaleski for $5 US. Listen to Prude's Sealding stream, and I won't be able to join, but I pray all of you will be there and be able to attend next year's event. God bless. Yep, that's later this month, over the weekend of the 23rd through the 25th. Highly recommend that you guys can go. So I highly appreciate that. It'll hopefully be a good time. I'll be speaking, Oren McIntyre will be speaking, Dave the Distributus, Rad Lib, so many more. including Mr. George Bagby. So you're going to get a really heavy American presence on this event, although there will be some Canadians, Geo. So the Great White North is being represented. Then he says, here's another one for, I'm just going to go through Owens because they're all back to back to back. Shout out to Prud and Geo, giving great content. He says this for $3. Prud's fiction was great, and Geo's recent content mindeds have been fire. Both of you are an inspiration to me and my work. Thank you and God bless. Well, thank you, Owen. We're greatly appreciative of that.
Hey, your tweet went semi-viral. It's got 2K likes. Tucker.
I have to thank Enoch for giving me the prompt. I asked him if I could tweet it, and he let me, and it blew up. So yeah, that was fun. The Tucker beams are great.
Yeah.
So yeah. But anyways, with that, let's move on. He says, one more chat. I said, I love Geo's engravings last week. He says, what is your favorite figure or story from Arthurian legend? I loved the Legend of Silence. It's very fitting considering how confused people are now.
Man.
Do you have a favorite story from Arthurian tales?
Oh, not really. I remember I was reading the young, there's this Jungian analyst who wrote this book called From Ritual to Romance about the Arthurian tales, but it's been years since I read them, so I don't have a clear answer for that one. So yeah. What's your favorite one?
I've only read The Death of Arthur, so I need to read more Arthurian tales, to be perfectly honest. I'm actually really lacking in this respect, but I mean, that's all I can add to that fact. I find the stories behind it is fascinating. Scott Mannion would have way more to talk about than myself in that respect. So yeah, highly would recommend myself to go do it. Green Knight, Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. Yeah, I need to definitely do those and read them. So I will make that an effort this summer to read more Arthurian tales. Sam153 says, for $5 US, nice face cam Digital Archipelago episode. Cheers. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
2.5 hours of showing my face.
Yeah.
I forget how tiring that is, actually. All right, so now on to the fun super chats in this respect. The ones I can show on screen. Comfy Lad for $1.99 says total chud victory. Well, there you go.
Oh,
this
yeah.
is what happens when you start pulling the Amesian atheist style of $1.99 style stuff. Mike Oxlon says sneed, snad, snowed. I'm a fan of this sort of grammatical breakdown. Or you can make Twitter pronoun.
Does TJ Kirk have a BWC or no?
No. We just went over this with the Howley Mutant for tweet saying that the whole time.
Well, everyone saw it. If you saw the original oil video. Oh God.
New Gloff for $5 US, a Sneed body team. There you go. That's
I was just
listening
to. Yeah, I was just watching rewatching the Alien documentary. As I said, near the end where Nobody TM does the tech screen is the whole point of the film, but the whole journey to that point is quite fascinating. Highly recommend. Just type in Nobody TM UFO Zone on YouTube. You'll find it. So, I believe I'm the top comment too on that video.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay, where am I? Spasticus Autisticus sends just £1. Thank you so much. Hello sends a super sticker for 99 cents.
Oh yeah.
I need to go check the YouTube studio and see what that is. But we'll move on. Internet friend for $1.10 Canadian. All right.
Yeah.
I like that's the response. And Fishy Frenzy to top it by £1 and 11 cents. I like it. All right. Luthamplar for $5 US says future archaeologists will ignore our artifacts judged academically useless. Like trilobites, so plentiful they were sold as desktop curiosities.
That's a terrifying theory, but it's probably correct.
Well, it's like that whole solid square inch of plastic with our age archaeologists when they do like the core drilling.
That was Trash World Citizen that tweeted that.
Yeah, I mean, like imagine that, like all these imagine like a fossilized cell phone, and it's just like, oh yeah, fossilized tech. That's our gimmick, and they're all on people's desks. That's a terrifying thing to think about,
Yeah.
Or my favorite one though is from one of the bodybuilder accounts where it's just like, bodybuilders 1,000 years from now adding microplastics into their diet like we do for Roman diets with lead.
Oh God. Oh.
John Carter for $4.99. U.S. says nudes are going to become like hidden knowledge, not obscured by secrecy, but by their absurd prevalence and the public's indifference and / loss of appetite. I do
Jean
wonder.
Baudrier predicted that.
Yeah, but it does make me think about. It reminds me what Kofi Annan said on Kashuta. It's just like, I wonder how much of this is having like an impact on like the sex drive of men. I mean, it's so prevalent, it's killed it. But I mean, like, imagine walking through like Daytona Beach on spring break and show that to like a man in his like 20s in 1820.
Yeah.
He'd die.
Oh, yeah.
A priapism. And I don't mean that to be like a horny poster. I mean that just like the sexual mores were so different that it was like you just showed him like a garden of sinful delight right there. And it was just present to be seen. So, yeah. I mean, I think, and really it will be like, it will also be hidden knowledge if the fact that you can find somebody who doesn't have their stuff on the internet, which I mean, there are plenty of people who don't. It's not that ubiquitous, but it's still pretty prevalent.
Yeah.
Philip Daniel for $5 says, judicial clerkship ended today. I start a new associate attorney position in a few weeks.
Oh.
Also, one of my scores will be included in a certain anthology.
Nice.
Well, congratulations, both on your new job and with the anthology. So well done. Congratulations.
Go to patreon.com/PhilipDaniels.
Oh, does he have his?
Yeah, he's got a Patreon.
Oh, okay. Well, great. Good to know. Well, that's fantastic.
Nice.
Well done.
Congrats,
sir.
big guy.
Congrats. It's very hard to find someone.
His wife ain't that great, by the way.
No, Leafy gave the answer to that question.
Doesn't look that great.
But yeah, no. Congratulations. It's very hard to find someone who can do like the legal stuff and then also to have like a musical ear for it. So well done. In that respect. Matthew Peter for $3 Canadian just says God bless. Well, God bless you as well.
Yeah, thank you, Matthew Peter.
Comfy Lad for $4.99 says, Geo, I'm glad that you realize China and the Vatnik land won't conquer the world, but you simply support these guys and to own NATO and not some gay Duganist fantasy. This may be a good opportunity for you to explain your position.
Total Russian no, okay. I write about this in my book when it comes out. I think that the Duganist fantasy is inherently incoherent and it's not particularly meant for Westerners. But in terms of the current conflict, I think that it's a classic theme of America to always confront its unconscious in the East, whether it be in the Far East or whether it be in Eastern Europe. And I think that the fantasy of the neocons to confront China and Russia is simply that, a fantasy. And I think that a disempowered NATO will ultimately be better. There's really no reason to support whatever gay NATO wave fantasy you have is equally absurd, if not more absurd, than any like Duganist fantasy about Eurasianism. I think that Russia and Western Europe have a history together and have an ethnogenesis together, and there's simply no decontextualizing the European part of Russia. And I think that without saying too much, ultimately, any L that the regime takes will be a W for free humanity, put it that way. And I think that strategically, there's going to be a reckoning in Europe either way with their support of America and the American elites, I mean. And I think that, how should I put it? Without devolving into any like Eurasianist fantasy, because you have to realize even Dugan said that it's really not for us, it's for them. And even so, there is another, like I talk about this in my book when I talk about Spangler. There's another interpretation there about the union between Europe and Russia that could eventually happen. And I think that the current geopolitical situation is a tragedy because those things now they're litigated on the battlefield. And so I don't know. But at the same time, I realize that the Russians don't, when it comes to like based Russia saving us, I think the Russians really don't care and they really don't owe us anything because I mean, like look what our elites have tried to do to Russia for the better part of 30 years now. And if you want to look at communism being a creation of certain forces as well, and Anthony Sutton talks about this, about the funding of the Bolsheviks. Really, I mean, this has always been the plan for almost 100 years now, is to break apart Russia. So, and they openly say it. So I don't know. I think like the whole, like, it seems like the far right that supports, Ukraine and like the right wing that supports Russia, they both equally are delusional in some sense. But because at the same, when it comes to like the pro-Russian people on the political right, I mean, really the Russians don't owe us anything, I don't think. So, I don't know. It's a complicated situation. And I think like, I mean, yeah, when the beginning of the war happened, it's like, of course, you're caught up in the sort of like, yeah, they're going to own the GAE. But really, I mean, in some sense, if they come out victorious, it will be a huge L to the empire. But at the same time, there are so many different problems that Europe and America and Russia faces that, it's a very complicated situation. Not to like nuance
demographics alone.
Yeah, demographics alone. So I think like Russia has a lot of systemic problems as well that won't be addressed immediately by a victory against, NATO. But that being said, I think that the whole war to me, you have to look at it from this angle. Those people in the East, they're never going to submit to Kiev. And Western Ukrainians don't exactly like them. So I think that the quicker that this thing goes to the negotiating table is probably for the better. But we're run by a lot of very evil and equally very stupid people in the West. And that's never going to happen. There is a religious devotion to the way in which they want to go after Russia. So from like the boomers in the State Department have a near religious devotion to this. So I think that it will have to take very dramatic things to happen on the battlefield for it to go to the negotiating table, which is a tragedy. I think that the quicker that this thing is settled, the better for everybody, because there are a lot of young men in Eastern Europe who are dying senselessly and needlessly on both sides. And those are European young men and sometimes young women who are dying on the battlefield that don't deserve it, that don't need to die. And you can say like it was Russian aggression or it was the West goading them into it, but the brute reality is that there are people dying by the thousands in Eastern Europe. And so I think I've certainly tempered my like partially ironic Vatnik posting for obvious reasons. But I do think that at the end of the day, there's a real possibility that the Russians will withstand this. But what happens after that, in terms of the future of Ukraine, that is a very, very open-ended and very brutal question that will be answered in the coming years. And I think that really there's no winners in this. Even the elites of our country, they're not going to win from this, in my opinion. I don't think the Kremlin's going to win. I mean, I don't even think China probably win from this. I mean, there's just, yeah. So I don't know. I don't know what to say.
The sooner that the war can end, the better.
Yeah, 100%.
Because I mean, like whatever happens after this war, that part of the world has been senselessly depopulated of men.
Yeah.
And all that means is what I think about with Morgoth's law about like any sort of international crisis. They'll just fill it with more non-Europeans and non-native people of that region.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, like, yeah, my government has geopolitical interests that I don't think are in my national interest, nor in the interest of, that
or Europeans in general.
Well, no, but that's the way that I'm rather powerless in my own country, respectively speaking. And so like I have to sit back and watch as they escalate and push it and potentially, alliance trap most of Western Europe into a conflict that has all the likelihood to very much escalate and kill hundreds of thousands, if not millions more. And I'm adamantly against that for humanitarian reasons.
Well, also, if you look at it from like, say if you're like a smarter person in the Pentagon, like not the State Department, but the Pentagon, if you have like a few like brain cells to rub together, you're looking at it like, well, we know that like basically the Ukrainians, they can't win at this point. I mean, they can try, they could like grind Russia down for a few years. But my fear is that the calculus that they're using is that, well, we can't exactly turn off our like religious crusade that the boomers have against the Russians. So what are we going to do? We're like, well, basically they're going to treat this like Afghanistan, not in the sense that there's going to be like an insurgency, but they're going to say, well, if the Ukrainian army the AFU, if they can basically last for a few more years to we're going to like basically redact enough Russians and, maybe they could like throw a few bombs into Moscow, then it's like, that's like the best victory we can think of. I fear that they're going to, there's precedent in sense of like what America has done in terms of military engagement throughout the later half of the 20th and the into the 21st century, whether you're talking about Afghanistan in the 80s with Russia, or you're talking about even Vietnam, or you're talking about even up to Iraq and Afghanistan, or even up to, Kuwait, right? Like, I fear like the sensible people in the Pentagon, they're going to like go over their classic military doctrine of we're just going to try to like grind down the enemy through proxies. And I feel like that's probably going to be equally another devastating outcome, because
Yeah.
the America can't outspend them forever. If Russia's conducting this war, like there was an article in the New York Times where they admitted to the fact that the Russians are basically waging war on the cheap. So the economic model of warfare nowadays is all fucked up when it comes to the American military-industrial complex. But that, like, I know Vulture in the chat talked about how he's like, Ukraine is outspending Russia 2-1, but somehow they only have 25% of the artillery. Yeah, I mean, that model comes sheerly from the American, like, post-history global police model of the 21st century in Iraq and Afghanistan and so forth. I mean, Prude knows about this as well. So the whole shape of the post-World War II American military-industrial complex has been just all out of whack.
Well, that we've deindustrialized. Like we're gonna have to struggle replacing our own munitions, but we'll move on. We've been on the super chat for a bit.
Oh yeah, sorry. You got your money's worth though.
You sure did. Because the next one is Geo is a based co-host and not a goober.
Thank you, Jacob.
This is in reference to when I had Sandbatch on last, and he sent money via Entropy to inform us that Sandbatch is a goober.
Sandbatch is a goober?
Yeah. Oh, apparently, Janus Films, which is both close relationship with the Criterion Collection, Bellatar has entered the chat, so we might get a Bellatar Criterion Collection sometime in the future.
Can you imagine if it's the real Bellatar?
Be wild, wouldn't it?
Well, like, I wonder though, because like he's kind of like an old school communist, so he'd be like, I don't know. That'd be amazing though if it's the real Bellatar. Listen, I love your work. I love Satan Tango. It was a great film. I watched all 7 hours of it. So I know you're a commie. I know you're like the more nihilistic Tarkovsky.
Are you trying to separate the art from the artist, Geo?
Exactly.
There you go.
But I truly think that Bellatar is probably one of the greatest living filmmakers in our lifetime. So, anyways.
New Gloff says, does fascism have an actual definition? Serious questions. Definitions I see are either anachronistic or meme definitions like capitalism and decay.
Oh, can I rant about the capitalism decay shit?
Yeah, go for it.
World War II proved that that's not true. You could say that neoliberalism is capitalism decay, or you could say that there was this one take, I believe it was my good friend Julius Ange on Twitter, that said it was Contrary Pancake, where I know it was like the ironic quote tweets, but he said that capitalism is fascism in decay. But no, I think that we know that this whole like fascism is capitalism decay is bunk by the virtue of like, look, like, what is the foundational onto-theological and political act of the 20th century into the 21st century? It's basically capitalism and capitalism and communism teaming up to destroy global fascism, really. And I don't see, even like economically, what has been proven is that you will have what really is capitalism in decay is a liberal post-historical form of totalitarianism, and is not fascism. It doesn't operate the same way as fascism. It certainly doesn't have the cult of the social doctrine that fascism has. And I think like I know in Zaleski people say that the late stage capitalism thing is nonsense, but I think that no, I mean, neoliberalism and capitalism decay certainly isn't fascism. It's approximating a form of global progressive totalitarianism, put it that way, that is distinctly ahistorical, that doesn't share the same markers as both fascism or communism. So, that's Yeah. I mean,
Um,
what would you say to that, Prude? What's your answer to that?
I would say that like liberalism, you have to ask me what era, what age, and who am
Yeah.
I asking from. Like this is why when we talked about it earlier, I
We
know
live
that
in
you
a
mentioned it.
post-historical. We live in a post-liberal world.
Oh no, I know. But my
Yeah.
point is that like when you read Gottfried's career of a concept, fascism, career of a concept. I mean, he'll tell you straight up, and I don't know how much people will buy that argument, right? But like, he'll say in chapter 7, I think it's he sort of gives a pretty good. He makes an argument that Nazism was its own phenomenon in comparison to say like Italian school fascism,
Or
which
like
I mean,
Franco,
yeah, or
Catholic
Franco,
fascism.
yeah, Rex Catholicism style fascism,
Yeah.
right? And so like if you read, for instance, After Liberalism, he'll tell you like the first 2 chapters are just nothing but a historiography lit review of what defines liberalism.
Yeah.
And fascism has the same problem here. So I mean that book sort of talks about the career of what defines fascism and how you have sort of this bourgeois liberal institution in academia that will tell you that fascism is opposition to progress. And that's the problem is that like an academic definition of fascism, even if you wanted to go with for the state, by the state, and nothing but the state, right? And that's how we're going to operate things for the purpose in society of like a state-run market that will regulate things based upon the state's institutes of morality. Like you won't get that definition from, say, degree in extremism studies, right? Like
you won't get it from who's the Russian gate guy, Abramson?
Yeah, you won't get it from Seth Abramson. You won't get it from any mainstream.
You won't even get it from Susan Sontag.
you won't even get it from Sean McMeekin.
Oh God!
And he's the guy whose book I was just shilling earlier on Stalin's War.
Yeah.
So yeah.
What does the left think fascism is like when they throw that term around? They just mean anything we disagree with now, but I mean like they mean like an upswelling of emotional,
an upswelling of emotion, heart and soil, and all that sort of jazz. Like it's just a mess.
It's a mess what they believe fascism is. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why like you actually again read like that's why I would recommend if we're gonna do it, read primary sources, which is why Gottfried does a pretty good job at reviewing primary sources for you. Melon for $5 says, I think a way to discern who our friends are is look for people who have suffered a loss and do the right thing, lost a job, etc. Yeah, I mean, this is what we want the Old Glory Club to turn into as a mutual aid society. And I mean, New Founding is already doing this, which, you can sign up and find new jobs and things like that. They want you to get out of people. They don't want you to work for people that hate your guts. And so I think that the right in America is slowly beginning to put money where its mouth is on that. And I'm cautiously optimistic. Seasider for $10 US asks, have we ever read American Cosmic? Good book about UFO cults, church in Silicon Valley. I have not, although I saw 12 different people post it today.
I should read it, actually.
It sounds like a good book.
We should review it.
We should.
If it's not too long, we could review it.
How long is it? Let me go look it up. What American Cosmic?
I think I like that tweet.
Originally published in 2019.
Oh.
How many pages?
I like Owen Zaleski. He said that the decay of capitalism is like human decay. Everything just goes by the wayside. Everything breaks down. Yeah, I mean, that's very Spenglerian analysis. So
it does not. 288 pages.
Oh boy.
So that'd be a couple weeks worth of, at least a week of reading and then writing down notes and reviewing. Like it's not hard to burn through a book, but I want to take good notes.
Yeah.
You can get a hardcover copy used for $15.
Nice.
That's not bad. I may order it. Lieutenant Plar for $5 says things look a little bit better on Getty Prime here. Also, yes, the fires were not natural, but I will say more another time.
Oh boy.
Oh boy. Machiavelli sucks to go says non-women consolation prize. Well, yeah,
a white woman equals consolation prize.
Mike Oxlon for $4.99 says, Gio, my wife says hi from the basement.
Oh.
She's an admirer of your big black fez. Also, props for shaming us into giving you money. Very mid. Well, you're not even giving Gio money. You're giving me money this time.
I know, eh?
So,
that's crazy.
He's an excellent merchant. True to his Italian Brazilian roots.
Merchant of Venice. Oh,
John Carter for $1.99 says Big Wop Canadian. There
Big
you go.
Wop Canadian.
Finally, an answer to what BWC means. Templar again for $5 says Kissinger said it was 100th year birthday. He said that the war will end by year's end. Interesting.
Yeah, maybe I could only see that if they go to the negotiating table. That's
that's what I would believe in if they went to the negotiating table.
And it would be very Kissingerian. So, is that a word, Kissingerian?
No, Kissinger. I don't know if there is a word to describe his policy. Kissingerian, Kissinger-esque, Kissingerism. I don't know. It's a good point. Oh, and then by the way, so a firm reminder: Corbin for $10 just says Casey. So yes, you'll be on Pat Casey later this week.
Yeah, tonight.
So
with
yes,
Nightmare Vision.
With Nightmare Vision.
We talk about BWCs.
At what time?
Oh, is it 7? Let me look it up.
Look up the time. That way we can tell people where to go to.
Patrick, Restoring Order USA on Twitter. Patrick Casey. At 7 p.m. Eastern Central.
All right, so in 2 hours.
Right. 2 hours.
2 hours, gentlemen. A Kissin' Night, maybe.
Kissin' Night. That sounds like some Star Trek property.
Yeah.
Kissable.
I don't think he's
Mimi
kissable. Ramone. Yeah, it's just like 100-year-old. I mean, that man is still offering policy takes at 100 years old.
Wow.
Henry.
Could you say the same about Bill Kristol?
Or Biden.
Or Biden. Oh.
Henry, I would have been an anti-Semite if not for the accident of my birth, Kissinger.
Yeah, it's us in the War Report read that article from
it's a wild
Pirats. Yeah, it's wild, man. It's Tony Blair. I guess Tony Blair in 100 years, when he turns
100 years old, probably could pull it off.
Yeah, but he wouldn't say it in public, though.
Kissingerian sounds right. Seems right.
Kissingerian.
I guess so.
My cock hurts. My cock hurts. Put down your glasses. My cock hurts.
Actually, Melon, the most heart transplants have gone to one of the Rothschilds, but we're not allowed to talk about this.
Oh boy, really?
Yeah, or one of their family members have done that there. Yeah, I can't put that one up on Heath, but yeah, it's pretty funny.
Oh boy.
Trust me, I have inside knowledge. All right, Gio. So you're going to be on with Patrick Casey in 2 hours.
Is that it for the super chats?
Yeah, it's it for the super chats.
Oh yeah, I'm going to be on with Patrick Casey and Nightmare. God, close my eyes. Man, if I was a wrestler, that would be my finishing move name. God, close my eyes.
And there you go.
Yeah.
God,
corpse robbers. Maintain maximum pumping performance. Yeah, so go and watch the Josh Lacash interview on Content Minded. It's pretty good. And other than that, well, we have mucho content next week, me and Prude together and apart. So
yeah, we'll be live on Gio's channel next week. We'll also be on Conscious Caracoles talking about the show and the impact the internet has on culture, which will be kind of meta, but it'll be fun. That's
we're going to review Tuesday. Nathan Barley next week.
Yes, we are, because I've set aside time this weekend to watch it. So yes,
it's a wild
Nathan
ride,
Barley
man.
is reviewing next week, and then I'll be on Hitman tomorrow to discuss the Sykes-Picot Treaty. It'll be part 1. We'll talk about it as well in a part 2 on my channel. And then at the same time, I'll have a new video out next week. And then I'll have some pre-recorded stuff when I'm out over the week I'm out on the event. So plenty of good stuff to come. I look forward to meeting you there who will be at the US event and those of our friends around the Tennessee area anyways. So yeah, it'll be a great time.
Nice.
So by all means, as we all like to say, send us your money or a manual typewriter. We will see you all next week. Take care and God bless. Be sure to tune into Patrick Casey in 2 hours. That's where Gio will be. And we'll see you all next time.
God bless. Goodbye. Too sweet. R.I.P. to the Iron Sheik.
See you, gents.